truth now. Yeah. I'm here to speak and make it clear. I'm sorry, y'all, for all I've done. But I'm not the only one. In a dark place, I told some lies. But I'm not the only one. We all got secrets under the sun. In the shadows, we played the game. Now I'm standing here taking the blame. A lot of y'all was at the freak off too, so don't put it all on me. That's just the truth. I've been up and down this road trying to find my peace. Confessions of a man without a release. Oh, now, hey. In the mirror, I saw the truth hiding in plain view. I'm coming clean now, this burden to undo. We were all there dancing shadows in the night, acting wrong when we knew what was right. But deep inside, there's more you must see. In this room of mirrors, it's not just me. I walk this path with heavy chains, trying to shed those sins, erase the stains. I've seen the highs and the pushing low, fading in the spotlight. That's how it goes. Now I'm standing here, hard on my sleeve, trying to clear the air, let the demons relieve. Every wrong turn and every mistake led me to this moment, let my soul quake. Plays a part in the shadows deep, lost in the game. These promises to keep.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur show. I'm your host, Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur, and this is your morning wake-up call. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. Also, don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Dr._A_Shakur, also at X at DGoddess27. And as per usual, if you don't like what the Queen is cooking, you already know what to do. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, so before we get started, let's have a brief word from my sponsor at 12 Tribes.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
Okay, so with that all been said, don't forget, you can purchase 12 Tribes hair oil at Etsy.com. Just look for Lisa Crafts. You can also find it at Walmart.com. Okay, so with that all being said, let's see who's in here. All right, Leon, Dragon Lily, Claudette. All right, Pearly, Panther Strike, We the People. Okay, let's get ready to get into it. All right, Anita Harrell, Mel is here. Okay, Pretty Wings, Donna, Nubian Cutie. Okay, Tuffy is here. All right, Dragon Lily. Christopher, Khalid, Halim. All right, Nicole. Okay, so shout out to everybody in the chat. I see Andrea, Christopher, and everyone tuned into the Queen. Let's get into it. Right, Panther Strike, did I say you? Okay, that's right. Get your libations now, okay? So with that all being said, I'm prepared today. I got me a whole thing of water. When they go to break, I'm going to probably make me a smoothie, okay? So with that all being said, everyone hit that like button. It's a way you can support the stream absolutely for free. Hey, Veronica. Okay, so that all being said, let's get into it. Now, first things first. So I'm going to go over some of the updates from Diddy's trial on yesterday briefly, but also just to let you know that Cassie's attorney, Douglas Wigdor, he wrote a letter to the judge, basically, pretty much begging the judge not to unseal the video footage for the public or even the reporters, because the reporters basically have requested for it to be unsealed because they want to see those nefarious freak-offs. Okay, and so I don't know what the judge has said as of yet, but he did write a letter. So we're going to get into that. But first, let's go to one of these articles, okay? And so for those of you who missed the broadcast yesterday, we had a lot of information. We talked about the first person on the stand, which was Officer Israel Flores, who was previously a security guard at the hotel. Some of his testimony changed. Or not that it changed, but some of the things he said during his testimony, he had not previously said in the incident report. So Brian Steele kind of pushed back on that a little bit. But what I would have liked to have seen from Brian Steele, I was really surprised that he didn't delve just a little bit deeper. Do you all remember on the OJ trial when Johnny Cochran, when that police officer, Mark Furman, got up there, Johnny Cochran drilled him. He asked him if he ever said the N-word, if he had a problem with people who look like me. Mark Furman lied, and then they were able to prove with the recording and audio that he absolutely had used the N-word. That's why OJ won that trial, because they cast reasonable doubt on the officer's testimony. That's the main thing, one of the main things right there. So if I were them, okay, I would definitely have pushed back on Israel Flores. I would have, first of all, felt like he was an unethical officer because he admitted that when he was working at security, he literally unethically, okay, and without permission or consent from his boss or whomever, he took a screen recording of the video. He recorded it on his cell phone and took it home to his wife. That's unethical. If the security company knew he'd done it, he'd have been fired. If the hotel knew that he'd done it, he'd have been fired. Now, we could say that's years ago, but he was still an adult and he was doing security, which is just a step down from the police. Okay, so think about it. He also said that he pushed Diddy into the wall. Conveniently, he didn't include that in his incident report. What are you doing putting your hands on a customer? Okay, you're supposed to de-escalate situations, not escalate it, because that could have gone different. So he didn't include that in the incident report. So just, thinking about if he was a security guard and he was doing sketchy things like that, now that he's a police officer, what do you think he's doing? And I also would, use that to question his motives as to why he's adding details to the story that he clearly didn't say years ago. Is he just somebody who doesn't like people who look like Diddy? Are you just an unethical officer? Do you go out on the streets and harass people who look like Diddy? Has there ever been a complaint in your record as an officer? I would have asked all of these questions and I would have had the receipts. I would have known who he was, what he'd done, and all of that before even stepping in the courtroom. So I was just surprised that they did not bring up that sort of argument or that line of questioning, because I'm telling you, if I was defending a client and any police officer from anywhere was testifying against my client, we're going to definitely talk about your ethics, your morals, and whether or not you've ever had any complaints of excessive force, discriminatory practices, or any of the above on your record as an officer. That's just what I would do. Okay, but that's just me. So anyway, let's get into it. Everyone, please like and share. So 9 takeaways from day 1 of Diddy's testimony. Okay, coercion or consent. That is the central question posed to the federal jury Monday on the first day of testimony in Sean Diddy Combs' case. Now, the criminal trial represents a dramatic fall from grace for Combs. Okay, I'm going to skip past all of that. I just want to get to the main highlights if they're speaking on anything interesting. Okay, they claim that he coerced women into freak-offs. Ventura first met him in 2006. Prosecutors say he repeatedly physically abused her. In 2009, he threw her to the floor in an SUV and stomped on her face. In another instance, Combs learned that Ventura was dating another man. He beat her, brutally kicking her in the back, and flinging her around like a rag doll. So let me ask you all this. I'm not going to go through this article. It's too long, and we already heard all this before. The question is, I'm losing my voice, but the question is, for those of you all who listened to the broadcast on yesterday, or maybe you heard it from another content creator, whomever, what do you think about what you have heard thus far? Do you think that thus far that the feds are proving a case of possible RICO with S trafficking involved, or does it sound like domestic violence to you? Once in the chat, if you think that the feds are proving their case thus far as if this is looking like trafficking, or two, if you think it's coming off as domestic violence and just a person with a terrible temper. Okay, because I'm sorry, I'm not seeing where the trafficking's coming in right now. For me, it's giving domestic violence. Okay, I do believe Diddy was doing something nefarious. Okay, Diddy may have been trafficking, but they're not proving that thus far to me. Okay, so lots of people put in twos. Mama Joycelyn said domestic violence. That's what it's given. They sit there and keep talking about him beating Cassie, and doing this and doing that. But all of that is domestic violence, okay? Because they were in a relationship, so that's what it was. Please show us where the trafficking is. They need to get it together, prosecution. Okay, if y'all want Diddy to go down, y'all better get it together and come better than this. Okay, because right now the math ain't mathing right now. And here's the thing, not Officer Flores, but the other defendant or the other witness, Daniel Phillip. Now, here's some of the stuff that I didn't tell you all yesterday because it wasn't coming in some of the info. But my friend later told me. Remember, I told you I have a source down there, and they basically told me that not only did they talk about Cassie being urinated on or whatever, and even her mouth and all of that, but that Cassie's the one who told the S worker to do it. That Cassie's the one who told the S worker to do it, and also that her and Diddy were coaching him. Remember that time when they said she was choking off of it or whatever? Well, that's because it was coming out too fast or something like that. And so Cassie and Diddy supposedly were telling the S worker, you got to drizzle it. You got to let it just drip out. Can't just do it all at once. What? Coaching him? And you know what it reminded me of? If you all remember that I talked about Young Miami when she was doing that interview with Trina on her podcast. And then she was asked if she liked golden showers. And she said yes. Okay. And the first thing we all thought about was her and Diddy. But now we hear something about that again. So clearly that's something that they do. But the guy said that Cassie asked him to do it. Said Cassie's the one that told him to do that. Now, how do you think that looks? He also said that him and Cassie swapped phone numbers and he thought they were building a relationship. Okay. So some of the stuff he was saying in my attempt, yeah, you all watch what you're putting in the comments. Don't put anything racially charged. Don't put anything disrespectful or whatever. Watch your language, please. If you want to curse, please misspell the curse words at least. For example, the F word, you can spell it PH, okay? So just be careful. Now, so anyway, with that all being said, you know, it's going to be interesting today because Cassie's going to take the stand and we already know what the defense is going to do. But here's the thing. How are they going to approach this? Because they don't want to come down too hard on her and act like they're badgering the witness. Because I promise you that's what the prosecution will say. They will object and say, Your Honor, we object grounds of badgering the witness. And they don't want to badger the witness anyway because the jury's not going to like that. That's not going to look favorable to them. So the best thing for them to do is get Teeny Garagos or Nicole Westmoreland to cross-examine Cassie. Okay, that's my opinion. I told you all that yesterday. All right, so with that all been said, let's talk real quick about this letter that Cassie's attorney wrote, begging the judge, don't do it. Please don't do it. Well, you know, I don't know what the judge is going to say about it, but here's the thing. You take a chance when you enter this sort of stuff in as evidence. Now, I can understand why they don't want to put out there, but at the end of the day, this is part of the evidence and people do want to be able to report on it. Now, I'm not going to read this whole thing because it's 4 pages long, but still, there's no need for me to read all of it because the bottom line is we can get the summation of it just by reading parts of it. Okay, so here it is. This was filed on yesterday, okay, from the United States versus Combs. Dear Judge Subramanian, we write a counsel of Cassandra Ventura in opposition to the news organization's application for an order unsealing sexually explicit videos that will be introduced into evidence at trial. Okay, so these videos, the news people, they have requested that these be unsealed so that they can see it because I guess the plan was to have this done privately in the courtroom. I guess maybe everybody else would have to leave out but they don't want the public or the media to see this. And why? Because Cassie's in compromising positions. She's having you know what, and Diddy's doing you know who. Okay, so anyway, with that all being said, they say the news organizations do not cite any case, and nor do we, of any authority granting this unprecedented request in an trafficking case to unseal videos depicting coercive acts. For the reasons stated herein, we respectfully request that the court deny the motion and deny any request for news reporters to watch and listen to the video exhibits as they are being shown. Federal courts employ two related but distinct presumptions in favor of public access to court proceedings and records: a strong form rooted in the First Amendment and a slightly weaker form based in federal law. In the analysis of either presumption, courts must first determine whether the record is a judicial document. There is no dispute that the sealed videos, which the government will seek to admit as evidence at trial, are relevant to the performance of the judicial function and useful in the judicial process, and are considered judicial documents. Because the First Amendment rights is considered more stringent than the common law right of access, courts do not engage in the common law analysis when the First Amendment right attaches. So here's the footnote. This will tell you everything you need to know. The news organization's position effectively seeks the unsealing of the videos, as they are requesting public and media access to view the videos as they are presented to the jury. The request that the court deny any motion to close the courtroom is premature and inapt here, as there has been no such application made to the court, and it is understood that the sealed videos will only be accessible to the parties, the court, and the jury. So he's basically begging them, listen, don't let them be able to see this. Okay, they don't need to see it. Now, this is particularly so given that we anticipate Ms. Ventura will attest that defendant filmed her engaging in unwanted sexual acts and then threatened her with the distribution and publication of these explicit videos to manipulate Ms. Ventura into doing what defendant wanted. Unsealing these videos would therefore essentially allow the media to carry out the very threats that the defendant held over her. Unsealing the videos would also therefore present an additional chilling effect on potential victims and witnesses who would be discouraged from cooperating with law enforcement and participating in the judicial process for fear of severe public humiliation and re-traumatization. Well, here's the thing. It's interesting to me that they're saying Diddy recorded the videos, would hold them over Cassie's head. That is what Cassie has alleged. But the bottom line is the feds got the videos from Cassie. So what's up with that? I already asked you all this question when we first found out that Cassie gave them 9 videos of freak-offs in December of 2023. Why did Cassie still have those videos after all of those years? And not just 1, not 2, not 3, but 9. And they're talking about she might be re-traumatized. I would think she would have been re-traumatized still having those videos on her devices. Why would you want to keep that? For what? Okay, so at the end of the day, I'm wondering if the defense is going to mention that, because I just have several questions. Now, I'm not bashing Cassie or anything, but I have already told you all months ago that I wonder why she would keep that. I wouldn't want to keep that, especially if it's something that I was forced to do against my will. Why would I want to keep that for all this time? 9 videos? Yeah, there's no way. Okay, so anyway, the news organization's ability to report accurately and fully on this matter is not hindered by their inability to view the sealed videos, nor will the lack of access to the sealed videos obstruct the public's ability to monitor the judicial process and have knowledge as to the substance of the evidence. During her anticipated testimony, Ms. Ventura will describe the videos in detail in an open courtroom and will be subject to cross-examination. The defense will be able to question Ms. Ventura on what the sealed videos depict. Given the significant forthcoming testimony detailing the content of the sealed videos and the news organization's acknowledgement that there may be significant privacy interest at stake, the media's request that the videos are shown publicly is therefore unreasonably prudent. Okay, so basically they don't want the video showed, and then they're saying that look, they don't need to see these videos to be able to report on it, okay? Because at the end of the day, the bottom line is there's going to be enough testimony about it that they'll get the gist of it. They'll be able to understand what was actually depicted, so they can just report on that. There's no need for them to literally see it with their own 2 eyes. And you know what? I have to agree. I don't see why they need to see it either. Okay, they can just go by what is said in court and testimony. Why do they literally need to see it? The only ones who literally need to see it, in my opinion, are the jurors, because it's up for the jurors to determine whether or not it was consensual or coerced. So it's imperative that they see it to get their conclusions. But the media, you can sit down somewhere, that's just being nosy. But hey, I'm nosy too, and I'm part of the media, independent media. But nonetheless, we don't really need to see it, okay, to get the gist. All right, so with that all being said, let me go, okay, to the updates. Let me pull up my updates. But before we get to the updates, y'all, you guys, guess what? I got to tell y'all about Lil Wayne, honey. Here comes another one. Okay, it's about to be another one bites the dust. Please pay attention. And I don't know when some of these men are going to learn. Okay, please pay attention. Likes up, everyone, please. Like and share. Thank you in advance. Okay, so here we have, he started reporting from outside the courthouse 6 minutes ago. Okay, he did a little 3-minute video, so we're going to get to that after we talk about Lil Wayne. Okay, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it, because I sure hate to hear it. Lil Wayne put out his girlfriend and her daughter. He supposedly threw them out on Mother's Day. And so she was very upset about it and did a video. And now she's saying Lil Wayne put hands on her. What else is she going to say? And then she says that she knows other people that he put hands on. Really? Well, then why were you with him, ma'am? I have several questions. I want you all to pay attention, because here comes the smoke. See, as soon as one of these black men ticks one of these women off, this is what happens. Allegations start flying. Allegations start flying. We're going to get into it. Likes up, everyone. Please like and share. Thank you in advance, beloveds. Don't forget to hit that like button. It's the least y'all can do, honey. Y'all got me on live all day long, too.
Okay, so for everyone DMing me about my story I posted, yeah, this is actually a fact. Wayne literally kicked me and my daughter out on Mother's Day today. And I am just recovering from surgery. I am 5 weeks out from a full mommy makeover. I can't even lift boxes, but this man has his assistants and people coming to help kick us out today. Like, and broke up with me on Mother's Day through text. And like, what? And her birthday's next weekend. And I leave to New York this week for all the Sports Illustrated press. Like, when I tell you that I am absolutely unsure on how to even process my emotions, like, if y'all got lawyer recommendations, please send them, because you know, so yeah, I know he has 2 girls being flown in today, and who knows how many plethora of girls he has. I've been nothing but supportive to this man, loved him till the end of the fucking world. But okay, so for everyone DMing me about my,
I know y'all heard that. Yeah, all of a sudden, little Miss Becky, all of a sudden, little Miss Ann got some grievances. Talking about y'all, can y'all refer her a lawyer? Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. Say what? Now you need a lawyer, ma'am? After you've been with Lil Wayne for how long? Wasn't it about 5 years, girl? And now you want to sit up here and talk about he put hands on you and you know other women that he did it to? Yeah, I don't believe you. I don't believe you, okay? Because if he was putting hands on you, you should be glad to leave. He wouldn't have had to put you out. You should have just left and walked on and packed your bags. But still, here you are, mad, pressed, and stressed, complaining that he put you out, but at the same time, said he put hands on you. The math ain't mathing, boo. The math ain't mathing. Because at the end of the day, if a man put hands upon me, he would have to tell me to leave, honey. I'd have left anyway, okay? I would have left anyway as soon as it happened. All right, so miss me with it, lady. I don't believe you. Here we go, y'all. Here we go. Please pay attention. Now, we have never in the history of Lil Wayne heard nothing about him putting hands upon any women, okay? But now all of a sudden, conveniently, after he puts her out and she's pissed and her daughter's in the background like, yep, sure did. Wow. And then talking about her birthday's next week. What does your daughter's birthday next week have to do with anything? She's not Lil Wayne's daughter. Oh, I'm sorry. You wanted him to purchase something or throw the big bash or whatever. Is that what you thought? Instead of getting a diamond or some earrings or whatever for Mother's Day, he put you out, gave you the curb. Okay, lady, we're not here for it. Miss us with it, okay? Judge Wood says she wouldn't explain what she did wrong. Okay, exactly. She probably did do something. Thank you for your insight to the topic and your contribution to the channel, beloved. Peace, love, and blessings. But here's the thing: at the end of the day, you can't just put somebody out of the house if they've been staying there. You do have to legally evict them. Now, she might try to sue him for uh, wrong, wrongful eviction, if anything. If she'd been staying there longer than 30 days, I don't know the law. Where do they live? In California, Florida? I don't know where I think they might be in Florida. I'm not sure. But anyway, depending on the state laws, okay, there's a process before you just kick somebody out. That's number one. But these allegations about putting hands on her, honey, I don't believe that until I see some proof of receipts, because I'm just curious as to why you would sit up there and let some man put hands on you, but you're still going to stay there with him. And now you're even mad that he put you out. Girl, you should be glad. Okay, you won't have to get any more knots upside your head if that's the case, right? Okay, please pay attention. Nor should you, will you have to let your daughter see such things, right? Okay, honey, I'm not falling for it. I just want y'all to pay attention. I told you all weeks ago that it's no longer a grift for these women to get pregnant by these men with money, like these athletes, these actors, and all this, these rappers. No, the new grift is to charge them with assaults, either physical, as in they put knots upside your head, or they grape you. That's the new hustle. So fellas, look out. That's the new scam. Real talk. That's the new grift. Y'all think I'm playing? Just keep watching. Just keep listening. Okay, that's what it is. I told y'all that. Now everybody's getting beaten. Everybody's getting assaulted by their men that they've been living with, been in long relationships with. Now all of a sudden, this is what they've been doing to you. Well, why didn't you leave? Oh, honey, don't even get me started, okay? Those are just my thoughts, don't get mad at me. But anyway, so let's go to this video from Inner City Press, who is downtown New York, keeping tabs on the trial. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance.
Okay, here we are, Matthew Russell Lee, Inner City Press, here at the Southern District of New York Courthouse in Lower Manhattan. Today, Tuesday, May 13th, 2025. It's day 2 for real after the jury selection of the U.S. versus Sean Combs trial. Yesterday, we covered it in great detail. The jury selection in which the juror from the UN made it on, despite his claims to have that his Office of Counterterrorism doesn't work with U.S. law enforcement. It's not credible. But then there were the opening statements, hammering hard. Tenny Garagos did it for the defense, among their 9 lawyers. And she said this is about private personal conduct and that he may be a terrible person, but it's not a federal RICO charge. The government hammered away, saying you're going to hear from Jane, Cassie, Mia. And then the witnesses began. There was first the LAPD officer who went to the 6th floor among the famous kicking incident. And it turns out that he filmed his own version of the security camera footage and preserved it he was going to just show his wife, but he preserved it for eternity. Now, the cross-examination of him was done by Brian Steele, who tried to point out various inconsistencies of things that he hadn't put in his written report at the time, but only remembered later while speaking to the prosecutors. It wasn't a bad cross at all. Coming off his young thug work, score 1 for Brian Steele. Now, the next witness was I'm called him Male Dancer, but his last name was Philip, not with an S. And this is where it got pretty gruesome. Not gruesome. I mean, yes, gruesome. He was invited up and began to perform. But he stopped being able to perform once he saw the violence. He said he was a kind of a compelling character in a way. Now, the defense chose to have Xavier Donaldson, who I like and know quite well. I mean, I cover him more than these other lawyers because he's on the CJA panel and represents many criminal defendants here in SDNY as appointed counsel. He's taken a kind of his first line of attack was to try to say that the male escort or exotic dancing firm of Mr. Phillip games SEO, so he must be a fraudster. That's not really going far. He didn't finish his cross, and it's going to begin today. And we're coming up on the courthouse. You're going to see the madness in front. So we'll see what he does. And today is going to be the day of Cassie Ventura. So this is a longer than normal intro, but it's a case that we're covering in great detail. Now, we're also covering the crypto beat, among many others. And yesterday there was a development. Ever since this Todd Blanche memo in April.
Okay, so we don't need to hear about the crypto, but I can't wait for this to get started today. Hold on, what is this paper that was posted? Okay, so this is a letter that was posted on yesterday about Diddy's trial. Let me see what it says here. The filing documents in U.S. versus Combs, even after midnight, things the prosecutors keep entirely under seal until now. Oh, really? I find this interesting. So the prosecution has things they kept under seal until just now. So this was actually filed April the 23rd of 2025. Okay, and here's what it says. Dear Judge Subramanian, the government respectfully writes in response to the court's April 22nd, 2025 order seeking additional information regarding the risk of harm to victim 4, were she to testify under her own name. Those harms, which are detailed in a declaration from her counsel attached hereto as Exhibit A, are numerous and more than sufficient to warrant a pseudonym. Victim 4 wishes to testify under a pseudonym. The risk of harm to victim 4, otherwise including psychological, emotional, and professional harms of publicly talking about blank, allowing use of a pseudonym where victims face the likely adverse personal, professional, and psychological consequences of publicly linking their identities to their past experiences. Victim 4 also fears harassment, and then they have part of it redacted, and it says it is quite reasonable to think that the harassment will increase exponentially if she testified under her true name. Okay, so they want victim 4 to be able to use a pseudonym. I do believe that the judge has already ruled on that and said that they have to say who they are. Okay, and they never said anything else about victim number 3, who was pretty much Gina Hoon, like I told y'all, because the judge pretty much confirmed it in those documents I read a few days ago. But I think the prosecution was, I don't know if they were lying, but I just find it interesting that the prosecution in the beginning said that victim number 3 is ready to testify. She said she doesn't even want to use a pseudonym. She wants to use her real name because she's already been known to the public. Okay, well, now she doesn't want to testify at all. So if she was so upbeat and so thrilled and ready to testify using her own name, why all of a sudden she go on missing in action? Okay, were they just blowing air? I don't know, but I find it interesting. Okay. All right, so with that all being said, now while I'm waiting for updates, let's talk about Tory Lanez, because I did report to you all that Tory Lanez was stabbed in prison yesterday, but I didn't realize it was so bad because of the article I read. They just said he was stabbed and he was taken to the hospital. He's in stable condition, but they stabbed this man 14 times. Okay, they stabbed this man 14 times. According to Pedro Caldron Michel, a spokesman for the State Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, per the Associated Press, the attack on Peterson occurred at approximately 7:20 a.m. local time. Now, Michel added that Lanez received immediate medical aid from staff, and he was taken to a nearby hospital. Okay, so the statement read, there was a statement posted to Peterson's Instagram that read, Tory was stabbed 14 times, including 7 wounds to his back, 4 to his torso, 2 to the back of his head, and 1 to the left side of his face. They were trying to take him out of here for real. Both of his lungs collapsed, and he had to be placed on a breathing apparatus. He's now breathing on his own. Thank God. Now, they said despite the pain, being in pain, he's talking normally, in good spirits, and deeply thankful to God that he's pulling through. He also wants to thank everyone for the continued prayers and support. Okay, I find this all interesting. Now, what in the world why would somebody want to shank Tory Lanez? Why would somebody want to shank this man? Ross said he was in there all this time and now someone decides to stab him. I know, right? I think the timing of it is very suspicious, don't y'all? I just think this is very suspicious. Now, here's the thing. I don't want to paint any narratives, but does Jay-Z's name ring a bell when this happens? I'm just curious. Did anybody think about Jay-Z's name, perhaps? I mean, wasn't Rock Nation upset with Tory Lanez? And you know, Tory Lanez getting stabbed and killed, that could be like a little small headline in the corner of an article with this Diddy trial going on, because this is taking up everything. So that could just be buried under the Diddy stuff. That's all I'm saying. The timing of it's for me. You know, if you want to hide something in the news, wait till something big is out there. And then when that happens, nobody's really going to notice. I just find it all very interesting. What y'all say about that, honey? I mean, these are all just my speculation, of course, mind you. I don't know. It's all crazy. And then again, you know, somebody said that Tory has a big mouth and he was running it. I don't know. No matter what it was, it's the timing of it that's suspicious for me. Okay. Truth Brown said, isn't Tory suing Rock Nation? Is he? Let me look it up real quick. I just find it all shady. I'm just saying. I know they're not friends. Likes up, everyone, please. Like and share. Thank you in advance. Whew. No, he's not suing Rock Nation. It says the complaint, it says that while he has filed an ethics complaint against his former attorney, Sean Hawley. Sean Hawley is also Diddy's former attorney. Okay, and made accusations in his music. The complaint does not accuse Rock Nation of wrongdoing. The complaint alleges that Hawley's representation of Lanez was compromised due to her ties to Rock Nation. Hawley has denied any wrongdoing and denies any ties to Rock Nation. Well, still Rock Nation is involved. And it says right here, check this out. It says right here, this Double XL magazine, a Double XL article from March the 7th of 2025. Read the headline. I'm talking about this is giving very suspicious, is all I'm saying, okay? This is giving very suspicious, in my opinion. Now, look at that. Y'all see that? Tory Lanez puts blame on Rock Nation and lawyer playing both sides on new song using Drake's flow. So y'all already has a little issue with them. And then let's not forget the whole thing with Megan Thee Stallion, who signed to Rock Nation. So, honey, I don't know. Okay, I just thought it was all suspicious in my opinion, and still do. Now, then again, it could have been, you know, he could have gotten into it with somebody in prison, and maybe it was just something like that. Who knows? But that's just something that crossed my mind. Okay, so here are some updates. Okay, 4 minutes, 2 minutes. Okay, so okay, U.S. versus Sean Combs, May 13th. Cassie is on deck after cross of escort Phillip. Okay, so after they finish cross-examining Daniel Phillip, then Cassie's going to be next. All rise. Judge Subramaniam says, let's try to get through these issues efficiently as we have the jurors waiting. We have a letter from a juror that we will make court exhibit 1 on the videos. Okay, when will they be offered into evidence? AUSA says this afternoon. All right. Here it comes, y'all. So let me share my screen. Honey, I can't wait to hear this when Cassie gets on the stand. How about y'all? I'm here for all of it. I bet Diddy is probably so nervous right about now. Please pay attention. Okay? And we already pretty much know what Cassie's going to say because she said it in her lawsuit. But she's just going to probably go into more detail because you already know how the prosecutor's going to try to get every sip of tea that they can for the jury. Okay? Here's the thing, though. This is what I want you all to pay attention to. There's people on these different news outlets that I've been listening to as they give their opinion of the cases, of the case, the trial, and of the testimony they heard yesterday. And here's what I keep hearing them say. And I really want you all to pay attention to this because I can tell when people are not critical thinkers. I hear some of these people, specifically the women, even the men, but more so the women, on these news report or these news outlets. I heard them saying when they discussed yesterday's testimony, they're like, oh, the prosecution, it's that videotape. Oh, that's bad. Oh, their Diddy is horrible. I mean, that videotape and how they said he was punching Cassie. I mean, when they talk about this, they talk about how bad it is. And of course it is bad. But you know what it seems like they forget? That's not what he's on trial for, ma'am. Okay, that's not what he's on trial for. And the defense better keep reiterating that if they want to get Diddy off, because I'm telling you, people, and they knew what they were doing by playing that video so early on, because that sets the tone for the entirety of the trial. Please pay attention. They knew exactly what they were doing. They know it's prejudicial. And so they had to insert it in some way to make it look like it connects to the trafficking. Now, does it? We'll see. But at the end of the day, these people are saying, oh, it's just so awful, that video. Let's talk about the facts. See, some people can't separate. And I know most people can't, because it's a lot of y'all can't do the same thing. Okay, remember how before the election, when I was going in on Kamala, and then some people were like, oh, are you voting for Trump? No, I never said I was voting for Trump. And if you ever listened to me prior, I've always gone in on Trump every single time for years. I just didn't feel the need to go in on Trump because we already know who he is. Kamala is the one they were trying to put on us. And so that's why I focused on her more so, because I was sick of the Democrats and their BS. But with that all being said, some people only hear what they want to hear, and some people don't ever exercise critical thinking skills. So they just take things at face value, and they don't know how to see the big picture, the broad scope of things, or even how to think outside of the box. The bottom line is, yes, Diddy is low down and dirty and nefarious. Okay? Absolutely. For what he did to Cassie in that video and any other times he was beating her or any other woman's behind. But at the end of the day, he's here for a RICO. So let's sit back and see how this adds up with the rest of the information to see if it actually is a RICO. Because that's what I want to see. That's what I want to see. Okay? I hope Diddy does go down, because I really think Diddy had everything to do with Tupac's demise. And I always told y'all that, and I still stand on it. Okay? But at the end of the day, the judicial system is supposed to be fair and impartial. Okay? So no matter what nefariousness somebody's done, at the end of the day, they still deserve a fair shake. And I want to see how this all plays out. Okay? And also, as I told you all, doesn't nothing shady need to be done? Because all they're going to do, if there is something shady being done, they're going to just come back on appeal and get Diddy's conviction overturned, just like Harvey Weinstein. Keep saying that for a reason. Judge Wood said exactly. DV has nothing to do with trafficking. Thank you, beloved. Exactly. Thank you for your insight into the topic and your contribution to the channel. Peace, love, and blessings. Okay, so let's just sit back and watch and wait, because I'm here for all of it. Because if we had so much juicy, salacious news yesterday, what's going to happen today? Okay, so here we go. AUSA Johnson. We just wouldn't show the videos to the courtroom gallery, and the jurors and everyone in the well would wear headphones. These materials are sexually explicit or involve nudity. One has submitted a letter here. That's the letter that I just read to y'all. Remember, you heard it here first, honey, okay? So anyway, goes on to say, Agnifilo says, this is adult pornography with a P. That's what this is. So it's narrowly tailored. Our application is only that the visual images and the audio is within the ambit of the sealing order. We could ask questions tastefully. Okay, so he's saying, listen, you don't have to do all that. We'll be respectful in how we ask the questions about what's going on and how the actions are being depicted. Okay. And they have the letter posted here too. Late on May the 12th, a lawyer of Cassie Ventura opposed the public or press views of video exhibits. The letter's right here. Well, we already have the letter, but thank y'all though. See, I just want y'all to pay attention, honey, because I'm always on the job and I'm always out here getting these receipts. Y'all see how quick I had that letter before the case even got started this morning, okay? Give me a shout out, okay? Can I get some fire emojis in the chat for the queen of receipts? I mean, dang, y'all just going to be hating on me every day of the week. That's right. Leon said y'all heard it here first. Okay? Now, with that all being said, Leon said Cassie has been paid, and I think she's between a rock and a hard place. Not a rock and a hard place. Okay. Oh, thank y'all for the fire emojis. I love my royals. Nicole said, speaking clearly and breaking things down correctly. Thank you, beloved. Now, listen, I tried to get Gavin on here. I told y'all I was going to try to get him, honey. I text Gavin. Hold on. No, actually, I called Gavin. I don't even think Gavin called me back. Hold on, let me see here. Nope, Gavin haven't texted me since Sunday. Gavin, you are so shady, honey. You are so shady. But you know, Gavin's probably busy. Y'all know Gavin's an attorney, honey. He has cases and all that. But anyway, I'll see what I can do. Okay, so let's keep looking. Let me see what else they got here for us. This is about to get juicy, y'all. They need to hurry up and get this S worker off the stand so we can hear what Cassie has to say. Ooh, I wish I could be a gnat on the wall. I wish I could be big. DJ Big Six said, where's Gavin's narrow arse? Christopher said, shame on you, Gavin. I'm going to tell him y'all going in on him too. Nicole said, Queen teaches while speaking. Thank you, beloved. I appreciate you. Y'all are something else. Okay, still waiting. So while we're waiting, let's listen to what the Breakfast Club had to say about yesterday. Okay, let's go to that. I got a couple of videos that I can keep y'all entertained while we wait in between breaks to get the news and whatnot. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Likes up. Let me stop sharing this first. Okay, there we go. Now let's check out what the Breakfast Club had to say. Yeah, I would love to hear their take on this. Okay, now let me get an overlay. So I don't have any. I'm going to add some music to you guys. I'm not trying to get any copyright issues. Almost there. Just getting my overlay together. Okay, there we go.
It's Lauren LaRosa from The Breakfast Club. Sorry to interrupt. But y'all know how I do. So I'm here to talk about Top Dog Law. Y'all hear Top Dog Law all over your radio. And I know by now, this team, the defendant.
Have you ever spent hours working on a presentation only to feel like you're stuck in a never-ending cycle of edits? What if there was an
came after that? Now the prosecutors came out swinging. I'm not even gonna hold y'all. Like they revealed so many different things that we had never heard before. They told us that Cassie will testify this week. Her husband Alex Fine was in the courtroom yesterday, and I saw him in the lunchroom. So I thought she might have actually got on stand yesterday, but it didn't happen.
Did you see Cassie yesterday? Or no?
I didn't see Cassie, but I saw her husband
in the lunchroom too.
You gotta eat. If you leave out,
yeah.
if you leave out, you might miss your chance to go back into the courtroom because only but so many people can go in. So
You got
I
good
stay.
food?
It's all right. It's cool. We'll get you through. But so they told us that Cassie will testify this week, and they talked about what her testimony may be. So they dropped a big bomb when they mentioned that Cassie will testify that a male escort performed a sexual act that required him to urinate. That would stop people in their tracks for sure.
Required him to urinate, like just pee, like he just had to pee.
It was where he went. He
urinated.
On
her.
Yeah,
say that?
on her. Okay, I'm saying it the way I was told to say it.
Okay.
So that was the first thing, which people were like, "Wait, what?" And then the second thing, the prosecutors basically are making, like we knew they would, making Puff to be out this like angry man who like just can't control himself or whatever. So they go straight into a Cassie incident, but it's not the video. They talk about a time where Cassie decided, I guess she got upset that Diddy was dealing with other women. She decided to go deal with somebody else, so she dipped. Puff was coming. He came, he's looking for her, can't find her. He grabs his gun. Two of his staff members, one of the staff members said that she did not want to go, and allegedly she was forced to go. So they labeled that kidnapping. And they went to this man's house looking for Cassie in this rage. Cassie wasn't there, and it was like all hell broke loose. But the peeing thing was a huge thing. Mm-hmm. Now Diddy's team came real quick on their opening statements and said, look. And I thought their opening statements, to be honest with y'all, were weak. Diddy's team, I thought, okay, all they did was own up to everything. They're like, look. He was angry. He can't control his anger. He, might have abused drugs and been a horrible boyfriend. Y'all gonna hear text messages and audios that make him sound like a horrible person, and that he may have been. All of the most horrible things you could think about him when it comes to how he dealt with the women in his life, he's owning up to it. But when it comes to these charges, one thing has nothing to do with the other. You're not going to be able to look at him at the end of this case and say that because of any audio, any video you see, or anything that we are telling you right now that is despicable. They admitted it. Like, if he was guilty of domestic violence, we wouldn't be arguing today. I mean, if he was charged with domestic violence, we wouldn't be arguing today. If he was charged with abuse in a certain way, we wouldn't be arguing today. But because he's charged with everything else, the sex trafficking and all these other things, we're here because he's not guilty of that.
I was going to ask you, the fact that he went to somebody's house, that he's not being charged for that though, right?
I think the reason why the prosecutors open up with that is because they're trying to show that he can't be controlled. And there's like this jealous rage that they allege happen whenever it comes to him and his women, or whenever he doesn't get his way. The prosecutor's overall theme was, you can't tell Diddy no. Because if you tell him no, you don't know what might happen to you. He'll threaten your career, blah, 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 blah.
But he's not on trial for that. And that was so interesting when I saw the defense from Diddy's team at Top Dog Law. He was saying that, they were saying just because it's immoral doesn't mean it's criminal. I don't know if the jury's going to be able to separate the two, though.
Okay, so look, getting into that, this is why I was low-key impressed yesterday. So then they start calling witnesses to the stand. So they call this guy. Which witness y'all want to go with first, the male escort or the LAPD officer?
Whatever's more entertaining.
The male
They're
escort.
both entertaining.
The male escort.
Okay, so the male escort gets on the stand, right? Black male escort. Yes, he's a black man. He's probably 5'7", really stocky, muscle. I could tell when he walked in, I'm like, oh, he must be like a dancer or something. Oh, no, Charlamagne's body could never. Okay. He's like a dancer or something. So he gets on the stand.
You ain't never seen me with my shirt off, man.
Let her finish, please.
Baby, listen, look at you sitting over. Sit up, looking all pudgy. So he's on the stand.
I know you ain't talking with that Vera Wang fat suit.
So he's on the stand and he's describing his relationship with Cassie and Diddy. And he's saying that, up until a few years ago, in New York, whenever they would come here, they would call him because he would engage in different sexual acts with them, right? Allegedly. So he's like, every single time he got the phone call, it was from Cassie. The way that he met them was through his boss. So his boss came to him one day and said, look, I have this couple who wants to do something for the wife. It's a bachelorette party. They need a male stripper. They didn't have a male stripper, so he went. He shows up in the NYPD t-shirt and he says, Cassie opens the door. She's in red lingerie. She's in a wig, dark glasses, and pumps. And she's like, listen, your boss told me that I'm supposed to give you $200. And this is what he's alleging. And instead, she gives him $4,000. She's like, I want to explain to you what's about to happen. So this is not a bachelorette party. My husband likes to do special things for me. He wanted to do this for my birthday. He just wants us to rub baby oil on each other and, just kind of get familiar with each other. And whatever happens from there, if you're comfortable, I'm open to it. Mm-hmm. So he's like, okay. So he goes in. He says when he walked in on site, just
okay.
He literally said Cassie was one of the most beautiful women he ever seen in his life. He couldn't even believe that it was happening like this. So he walks in and he alleges that Puff was there sitting in the room, but you couldn't tell it was him because he had a bandana tied around his face and he had a hat on and he was sitting in the corner. Mm-hmm. So he says, but he did say the minute that Diddy opened his mouth to say something.
Take that.
I don't know what he said. It was probably just an introduction of he said he told him he worked in imports and exports. So when he said that, he said, I instantly caught the voice. And I'm like, well, how did you catch the voice? He said, I've been listening to this man majority of my whole life. So he said that they got into it. He says that they were rubbing each other with the oils. There was other lubricant there as well. And that him and Cassie had sex on the couch in that hotel allegedly. And that the whole time Puff sat in the corner and masturbated.
Executive producer. That's what he called it.
And he did say, he did say that, he never, Puff never got involved, but he was telling them what to do at different times.
That's how we know he don't make beats.
And he also made it clear too that when on the first time that they linked up, Cassie told him like, you have nothing to worry about. My husband is not gay. He's not going to touch you. He's not going to whatever. He just, he might tell us what to do or whatever, but he's not going to be, it's just going to be us doing the physical things. He said that they linked up a lot more times after that. His payments would range anywhere from like $6,000 to like $4,000 or $5,000, depending on what they wanted to give him. He said sometimes he would even show up and wouldn't even get paid, but he was just like, I just like being a part of this lifestyle. But he did say that there was two things he said. He said one time he couldn't get hard anymore because he went to Cassie's house. They got comfortable with him. He came to Cassie's house. When he was there, Cassie and Diddy was in the room. He was outside in the living room. Diddy comes out and goes off on Cassie, like allegedly beats her up bad because she took a long time to come back in the room to him. And he said after he saw that was his first time seeing her get physically like touched. He couldn't even engage in sexual activity with the two of them. And they haven't gotten to cross-examine him yet. Like Diddy scene started and then they had to stop.
What about the urination?
The urination thing. So he randomly was just like recounting their experiences, and he just came out and said, yeah, like, because they were asking him, what are some of the things you would have to do? He said, well, one time Cassie asked me to, urinate
on her.
On her. And now we all gasping like, oh, wait, because the prosecutors.
Oh, so Cassie asked him, not Diddy.
Exactly. Because the prosecutors opened up that literally probably like 15 minutes before that. The prosecutors were like, Cassie is going to tell you that Diddy allegedly made this escort urinate on her. That there's an escort sitting in front of us sworn in on the stand saying, no, Cassie told me to do that.
And this is what I was talking about yesterday when I said they're about to put Cassie through it. And I hope her husband isn't hearing anything he didn't already know.
Yeah,
right.
Because if not, that gonna make for some very awkward moments at home.
Yeah.
And if you didn't know that your wife.
What if when uncertainty is high, heck, when chaos is high, it's
got urinated on and then found this out in court?
It's a lot.
Could you handle that?
But let me tell you, not only because he had left, he was in the back of the court and then he went, I think they took up to like a back room, but the all the Diddy kids are there, right? So his daughters are there. I was sitting behind them. It was awkward for me to watch them have to listen to all of this. After he started, the male escort started getting into a lot of the masturbation and stuff, they got up and left. Who
told them to leave? Did Diddy say leave or?
No, Diddy didn't tell them to leave. I don't know if there was a conversation or not. I looked up from writing and I saw them get up. So I don't know, but I know that they were like checking on each other throughout. I saw them ask like Christian at one point, like, you okay? Because they brought Kim into this as well, like having conversations about the jealousy that was between Puff and Cassie, because, the defense is just trying to paint this as like this was just a jealous, toxic relationship. And it started with Diddy not being able to leave Kim alone up until the time of her passing.
And Misa was there too, right?
Misa was there. I saw
she was
Kim's,
with a walker?
Yes, but she's okay.
What the hell happened to her?
Her leg is just broke. She'll be in a boot today from what I'm told, but she's okay though. It's not like anything like super. I mean, broken leg is serious, but it can heal. So she'll be good. But there's more. I got to bring this back at the top of next hour.
I got more questions when we come back, because I want to know what Diddy was doing during all of this.
Okay.
What was his body language like?
Got you. And then the kids were giving off some of the languages as well too, because when that male escort said that part about Cassie, Christian and Justin, like the way that they looked at each other, like finally somebody saying
they feel like something true.
That's what it felt like. That's not what they said, but that's what it felt like. So we'll come back on the top of the next hour, because there's a whole nother witness and they broke this witness down on the stand.
All right. Lauren LaRosa, the latest with Lauren now. If you're just joining us, she was actually in court yesterday. So she's breaking down what she's seen, what she heard. We'll get back to her in the next latest with Lauren, which will happen in about 40 minutes. So don't go anywhere. We got front page news coming up, and she's going to court today too, right? You going to court today?
Yeah. As soon as I leave here.
All right, we got front page news next. It's the Breakfast Club. Good morning.
You're checking out the Breakfast.
All right, so y'all heard that. She did a great job, honey. That is the best I've heard thus far. Okay, she did a great breakdown. All right, so we're gonna have to listen to the other one, what she says about the second witness. Okay, we're gonna get into that before the day is done. Okay, so now let's go to outside the courthouse. Like up, everyone, please like and share. That's the main thing I was concerned about yesterday. I said Diddy's daughters hearing this stuff, they absolutely don't need to be in there. But they supposedly left out when the male escort started talking. Okay, that's what my friend said. Okay, they said that they left out. Rich said, we also heard Cassie was forced to sleep on the spunk and leftover oils. Are you serious? Where'd that all come from? Okay, so I'm going to be checking different sources Okay, y'all know how I do. I'm gonna be checking different sources to get these updates. Okay, so the trial was supposed to start at 9:15, with Philip expected to return to the stand. The second witness, Los Angeles police officer. Hold on. Okay, yeah. The second witness, Los Angeles police officer Israel Flores, testified that Combs attempted to bribe him. Okay, we know all that already. Okay, so 9:15, he should already be on the stand, and then hopefully Cassie will be in the next hour or so. I doubt they're going to have him on there too much longer for the cross. Okay, so let me just check a couple of more sites. And while we're waiting, I'm going to let you all see, I'm going to show you all this other video. Hold on. Let me pull this up. Can turn this music off too. Don't worry, I got y'all covered.
Back in here to live now from Fox. I'm Atty Mac. Almost 6 o'clock here on the East Coast as day one of the Sean Diddy Combs trial wrapping up in New York City. We had jury be seated, opening statements, and then some explosive graphic witness testimony early on. A live picture right now outside of the courthouse. We're awaiting any comments. We did see some of the family members for Sean Diddy Combs, the music mogul, leaving a short while ago. All right, let's continue on here on live now from Fox and bring into the conversation Fox 5 reporter Michelle Ross on the ground outside of the courthouse. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us. What can you tell us about what happened inside that courtroom today?
Well, the latest witness to take the stand today is a man named Daniel Phillips, and he was a male strip show manager. He would manage male strippers who would perform for things like bachelorette parties. But he said that he was paid to have sex with Cassie Ventura back in 2013 in a New York City hotel while Sean Diddy Combs allegedly sat in the corner, watched, and masturbated. This morning, his family entered the courthouse while leaving a black van. This includes his children, his sons, and also his twin daughters. His family has heard graphic allegations of the alleged sexual encounters, and his daughters walked out during that testimony. Phillips, the second witness of the day, said he was told by his boss that he was going to perform at a bachelorette party at the Gramercy Park Hotel, but when he arrived, he saw Cassie in red lingerie and a red wig. He testified she said that they would rub baby oil on each other and would see where things would go from there while her husband was there. Combs was allegedly in a corner in a white robe concealing his face with a bandana, but Phillips said he recognized Diddy's voice. He was paid a few $1,000s when he left. Phillips said this went on more times, meeting up at hotels or their homes, and Diddy would direct them while having sex. Now, a supporter of the alleged victims, Jaguar Wright, spoke out before court this morning.
I do believe there's going to be a lot of curveballs. I do believe there's going to be a lot of interesting things. And what I will say is, be vigilant. We're getting started.
Is this a reckoning for the music industry?
Oh, it needs to be. Mm-hmm. And if it wasn't, I hope my presence starts that.
Now, Phillips also testified that he witnessed Combs assault Cassie in their home and that he feared for his own life, but eventually befriended Cassie. Now, the person to testify before him was the hotel security guard who responded to the incident caught on surveillance video in that Los Angeles hotel back in 2016 when Diddy was caught on video assaulting Cassie. And he testified that Diddy threw a sack of money at him in their hotel room afterwards to keep quiet. That testimony resumes tomorrow with Daniel Phillips. And after that, Cassie Ventura is expected to take the stand. She is the prosecution's star witness. We're live outside the federal courthouse in Lower Manhattan. Michelle Ross, back to you.
All right, thank you so much, Michelle. And it's fascinating, some of those details inside. We're going to glean more of that in just a little bit. But I want to talk about the circus that is outside as well in New York City, familiar with major high-profile cases as well. Can you set the scene a little bit and describe some of the environment outside of this courthouse? Because there are no cameras inside.
Right. No cameras allowed inside. It's mostly press that's behind me here, but already a line has formed for press and the public to get into the courtroom tomorrow. So I would say there are about maybe 36 people. They have lawn chairs sitting out ready to get in and stay here overnight.
Oh, wow. That is impressive. Obviously, something we'll continue to follow. This 8-week long trial expected to go day one wrapping up. Michelle Ross, I appreciate your time here on Live Now.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. Great stuff from Michelle there here on Live Now from Fox. As you can see, some of these sketches from inside of the courtroom, as some of these details are going to be graphic, and that we're warned some of the jurors about this here on Live Now from Fox about all of these details. Let's continue our conversation about this here on Live Now from Fox and bring in to the conversation former federal prosecutor, friend of the program, Nima Rahmani. Nima, thank you so much for joining us here as day one of this trial, wrapping up a federal case accused there of sex trafficking and racketeering. The defense attorney during opening statement said, this Sean Diddy Combs is a complicated man, but this is not a complicated case. Is this a complicated case?
It is a complicated case, Andy, and we've been waiting for this day for 1.5 years, and a lot happened today. We got our jury, we got through opening statements, and we're on our second witness. So let's talk about the opening statement. And it's interesting, not necessarily the substance, which I'll get into, but who delivered the opening statement. In a case that's about gender violence, we had 2 women deliver the opening statement. The prosecution is almost all women, so that's not unexpected. But you had Tony Garagos, Mark Garagos' daughter, who delivered the defense opening statement. And I think
it is amazing. They used to have a collagen, used to have a probiotic, a green juice that replaced it all.
You really can see the defense perspective here, and the optics matter. You have a case that's about gender violence, and you have a relatively young attorney, certainly one of the less experienced attorneys on the team. She's certainly well qualified to deliver the opening statement. I think that's important. And one thing that she said, which I think is going to be a theme throughout the case, is obviously consent. We knew that. But a second big theme is the distinction between physical violence and sexual violence. We've all seen the 2016 video of the Intercontinental Hotel. All the jurors have seen that. So the defense had to take a position where they accepted responsibility for the domestic violence, the physical assault and battery. And I think that made sense from both a legal and a credibility perspective. You can't deny that that assault happened. And importantly, Diddy's not charged with assault or domestic violence in this case. Now, it is a potential RICO predicate act. So they may be stepping into those waters. But I think what they're trying to do is draw a line and say, listen, this was a mutually combative relationship, and it was toxic, and there was physical violence. But they're trying to draw the line and say there was no sexual assault and there was no rape.
Yeah, there's a good distinction and a good breakdown of some of the optics, because in the eyes of the jury, obviously, that is a big factor as well. We talked to people during jury selection. I want to ask you, because opening statements roll right into parts of the first witness and graphic details about that video. We're going to get into that in a little bit, but it feels like devil is in the details, and the prosecution leaning into all of those graphic details about that. How is the prosecution using some of those very difficult to hear things, difficult to see things to their advantage?
Very difficult, Andy. And, you know, the defense is arguing consent and the prosecution is arguing sex trafficking. So what does sex trafficking require? Force, fraud, or coercion. So they're really leaning into that force. And their argument is this: no woman would consent to being drugged. No woman would consent to being urinated on. So much so that some of them even threw up during these freak-offs. So what they're trying to show is this is really beyond the pale and beyond anything any human being would consent to, because of course that is what the defense is arguing, that this was some freaky swinger lifestyle. And even though the jurors may not like it, there's nothing illegal about it. So the prosecution needs to rebut that and say this was all forced. And I think those really graphic, disturbing details are maybe what carries the day at the conclusion of this case.
Yeah, that is so very true. And of course, one of the most poignant points of evidence they have is that video inside of that Intercontinental hotel room back in 2016 of Sean Diddy Combs kicking Cassie while she was on the ground coming around the corner. I think we've all seen that very closely. How key of a piece of evidence is that for the prosecution?
It is key. And if you're the prosecution or any trial lawyer in any case, you want to start out strong. That primacy and recency, that's something that you hear as a law student. So you want to start with your best evidence and your best witness. And we know the government star witness is Cassie, of course, but what they want to do is lay the foundation for that video. So that's why they brought in a current LAPD officer, a former security guard who can lay the foundation for that video and can talk about the black eye that Cassie suffered and the fact that she wanted to leave and escape this freak off.
Okay. So this is from 5 minutes ago. Shapiro, Diddy's attorney, says the predicate for prior consistent statements hasn't been met. The judge then says, I find that it has for this exhibit. The defense opening said there will be millions of reasons for people to testify here. That's the attack that was used. Okay, as to B316 too. Okay, so not sure what B316 is. These are obviously maybe possibly some exhibits, I'm not sure. But the judge is saying, basically telling the defense, there's no problem with the exhibit, it sounds like. Okay, then judge says, but the standard has not yet been met or has not reached as B332, excuse me, or B339. Okay, get Mr. Phillip in the witness box, then bring in the jury. This is what the judge says, all rise. Now, Xavier Donaldson, another one of Diddy's attorneys, says, so to continue, you return to the Gramercy Hotel? Phillip says yes. Okay, so now they're back with the cross-exam of the second witness. Okay, I'm trying to figure out what this BB32 is. Hold on, let me read this again. Said there'll be millions of reasons for people to testify here. That's the attack that was used. I guess we'll see later when we get more context. But the standard has not yet been reached. Okay, so this is going to be interesting. Y'all stay tuned, honey, but let's keep listening to this report. I'm trying to get the legal. I want to hear what the legal analysts have to say. Now, Naima Ramani, the guy that's speaking right now, if you all remember, I've used him several times when going over the Diddy case, okay, to hear his thoughts and give his legal analysis of the case.
And Combs reportedly offering him a bribe to cover it up. So I think it's a very important first witness to get that video in. In addition to the violence against Cassie, Combs broke a vase over in the hotel. So that's something that also shows the sort of violent streak, really erratic behavior, him sitting in a towel with just his socks on. So really disturbing and also graphic details by Flores, the first government witness. I thought he did well on cross-examination too.
Yeah, he said he had a devilish smile. That's what he said of Combs there after that incident back in 2016. And I want to ask you, because there's going to be cross-examination. We've already seen it with the defense trying to poke holes or talk about the credibility of it in terms of the bribe as well. How will that be a strategy for them to try to make it seem like these people aren't telling the truth? Because they also laid the foundation in opening statements about that everyone has a different motive, that people should look at those motives of what they say on the stand. How will the credibility factor be used by the defense?
It will be. And we know that this case is going to come down to credibility, not just the victims in the case, but all the government witnesses. And, from the defense team, it was Steele that cross-examined this particular witness. He, of course, really did an outstanding job for the defense in the Young Thug trial in Fulton County that really resulted in more or less a time-served deal and egg on the district attorney's face over there. So, during the cross-examination, they really focused on some of the things that Flores left out of that report. Andy, like you said, the devilish smile, that wasn't included in there. There was a male individual in the hotel room. Again, that wasn't included in the report as well. So what the defense is trying to do is cast doubt upon some of the elements that Flores was testifying about that didn't make its way into a report. And this is what good defense lawyers do. They just want to plant that seed of doubt, especially when you're talking about a security guard or a potential law enforcement witness. I think that's important, and I think the defense scored some points there.
Yeah, that is a very good point, talking about the credibility of this. And like you mentioned, some of those components of it. I do want to get into, because you mentioned the star witness is going to be Cassie when she takes the stand. She is also very pregnant in terms of this. We're not exactly sure when she's going to testify, but let's get into and preview that a little bit, because it's going to be fascinating that they need to be aggressive, but not too aggressive. How much of a tightrope is it for both sides?
It's going to be interesting because, again, you have someone who is going to be very sympathetic. She's a pregnant woman. She is a victim, admittedly, at least of physical violence. The defense is going to argue that she was not sexually assaulted. But I think you have to be careful, because if you're very aggressive, and obviously you want to do a good job for your client if you're a defense lawyer, you can really turn off the juror. So I think they're going to talk about some of the things that came up in opening statement.
Now, I want you all to pay attention, because isn't that exactly what I told you guys? That first of all, it's going to be a bad look for Diddy because Cassie's pregnant and her stomach is big and she's visibly pregnant, and how women or people generally tend to have sympathy for pregnant women because they look so, they're so nurturing, and Cassie's attractive and she looks all nice and sweet and innocent. That's going to play against Diddy. Okay, that's absolutely going to play against him. And I also told you all what he said about the defense. They have to be careful how they proceed with her. Now, we know they're going to have to go in on her to try to prove that she may have been complicit in some of these things that are alleged against Diddy. But at the end of the day, I said if they go too harshly, the jury's not going to like that. They're going to look at them like, okay, they're going in on this poor pregnant woman who's already been a victim, supposedly. So I said that I think they should either let Teeny Garagos or Nicole Westmoreland cross-examine Cassie. A woman needs to do it, not a man, in my opinion. And they need to be careful with how they choose their words and the tone of which they speak. Okay, that's what they need to do. They don't need to come across as condescending. They just need to be stern. You can be stern and get your point across. You don't have to be combative or anything like that. You don't have to be condescending. So I'm sure they already know that. But I'm just thinking that they definitely need to let one of the women defense attorneys do the cross on Cassie. But let's continue.
Right, the jealousy, the fact that she stayed in this relationship for more than a decade. I mean, these are all the questions that the jurors are going to have. That's why the prosecution is going to try to bring in an expert witness that's going to talk about the psychology of an abuse victim, why someone might stay in a relationship, even though they're being physically and sexually abused. And of course, they're going to try to get her to admit that she too was violent with Combs and that this was a mutually violent relationship. Doesn't excuse it, doesn't make it legal, but it can explain some of the physical misconduct that we saw in that 2016 video.
Hey, Queen. Instead of focusing on small clients or serving individual consumers,
Yeah, the force, fraud, and coercion point of it, they usually bring in the experts. And they also pointed already today that Cassie did leave this relationship with Sean Diddy Combs on her own, and they did eventually part ways. How powerful will that testimony from some of the experts in the psychology of this, a domestic violence survivor, a victim of this kind, how powerful could that be?
It's very powerful, and I've represented a lot of victims of physical and sexual assault, and I think jurors know, they bring in their real life experience. I think everyone knows someone who is in an abusive relationship, and sometimes they don't have the strength to leave. So really the irony here is the defense is trying to build up Cassie and the other victims. They were talking about how they're strong, independent women who made these decisions voluntarily, right? That plays into that consent theme. The prosecution, of course, is going to talk about that psychology of abuse that really she couldn't leave, notwithstanding all these terrible things that were happening to her. So there's sort of this fascinating dynamic where the defense is actually building up the victims to say that everything that they were doing was consensual and it wasn't psychological manipulation or force.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Of course, that video, it all.
Diddy's attorney Xavier Donaldson says, you claim Mr. Combs told her to come over here. She said she had her personal information on the computer. So wait a minute. And he threw a bottle at her. Philip says, correct. Now, remember, Philip is the S worker. Okay. Donaldson then says, he comes out and says, are you ready? Yes. Are you guys ready? Donaldson then asks, isn't it true Mr. Combs told you, yo, man, I'm going to have to deal with this. You need to get the F out. The dancer then says, that is not correct. Donaldson then says, in 2023, didn't you tell prosecutors he said, yo, man? Now the prosecution objects. Objection, not in evidence. Now, why are they objecting? This is just a simple line of questioning. He didn't ask him anything crazy. The prosecution is trying not to get him caught in a lie. That's what it's looking like. So let's just wait for the next reports. This is about to be juicy, guys. This is about to be juicy, okay? Because I'm telling you right now, hold on. The judge says sustained. You can only use it to try to refresh his recollection. Donaldson then says, read it to yourself. Does it refresh you yet? So he gave him the statement and told him, read it yourself. You know, I don't have to say anything. Okay, Philip then says, I do not remember saying that. What am I reading here? Get the F out. AUSA says, objection. The judge says, disregard that. Okay, this is interesting. Why is the judge saying disregard that? Is he telling the jury to disregard it as if they didn't hear it? Y'all, this is about to be a day. Please pay attention. Okay. And then DJ Big Six said, where's the rug mule? Okay. Well, he's likely testifying against Diddy. He's likely flipped. I told you all that last year or a year ago when it all came out, when he got arrested with Diddy. I said he's going to be one of the first ones to flip on Diddy. You think he wants to go to jail? Okay. They caught him with illegal substances when he's on that airport or on that airplane at the airport with Diddy. So I'm quite sure that he probably agreed to testify against Diddy. Okay, please pay attention. And see, that's the thing. People like him, the defense is definitely going to attack his credibility, okay, and his motive for testifying. Now, right? Now, Judge Wood says it's simple for the defense. Ike and Tina, Bobby and Whitney, same type of relationship. You know what? That is very much something they could use. They absolutely could use that, okay? They can also bring up Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, all right, while they're at it. And then the jury's going to start thinking, was it just a case of toxic domestic violence? I'm just telling y'all, that's a good point, beloved. Thank you for your insight into the topic and your contribution to the channel. Peace, love, and blessings. I absolutely agree. That is a good point right there. Question is, will the defense think of that?
Comes kind of back to that video as you can see it directly in front of you. The jury can about that domestic assault, even though this is a case about sex trafficking. I do want to ask you one of my last questions because on Twitter, on social media, baby oil is trending. They brought that up again. That's going to be kind of the hot topic in terms of what we see in the media circus around the case. But it's about what's going on inside the case. Can you lay that out one more time for us? Because it's not about what we hear on social media, about what's going on in the media. It's about what's in the case, correct?
It is. And, you know, everyone's talking about the baby oil, and it came up during Garagos' opening statement. She said there's nothing illegal about, you know, having a lot of baby oil. But baby oil is important to the allegations in the case because you saw Philip come and testify that Combs wanted Cassie covered in baby oil when he was filming them having sex. And, you know, he would assault her and Philip would become uncomfortable and grab her by the hair. So we're really seeing what the government is saying with respect to the force element. Yeah, the case isn't about baby oil, but it's about Combs's manipulation and forcing Cassie Ventura to have sex under his terms, which included a lot of baby oil, allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly a lot of baby oil, a lot of memes, tweets about this coming up over the next several days. Nima, anything else? Because there was a lot of fireworks. It was 0 to 100 real quick today. Are we expecting the same for the next days and weeks ahead?
I do. This is a case that's going to be aggressive. It's going to be about cross-examination. And I think Cassie may take the stand as early as tomorrow. And there are going to be fireworks. I think one important takeaway, too, is we didn't know if victim number 3 would show up or testify. At least in their opening statement, the prosecution talked about a victim 3. So, obviously, if you're trying this case, you want more victims to tell the same story. So if indeed victim 3 shows up, I think that helps the government's case. So that was an important takeaway from today as well, because apparently, at least as of last week, she might have gone MIA or was having cold feet, potentially.
Yeah, the mounting evidence and obviously mounting bits of testimony being seeded. This is expected to go 8 weeks or so in New York City. All right, Nima, thank you so much.
All right. With that all being said, honey, victim 3 is not going to show up. Victim 3 is nowhere to be found, okay? Leon said exactly 100, Queen. You called it. Thank you, beloved. Okay? Victim 3 is not going to show up, honey, okay? Like I told y'all, I know somebody who knows her very well, and they already told me why she wasn't going to show up, and I already told y'all. And it wasn't because she's scared of Diddy or thinks something's going to happen to her due to Diddy, allegedly. Let me just say allegedly. But at the end of the day, they said because she doesn't want to be viewed as someone who goes back and spills tea or says things or tries to help send a celebrity to jail or prison. Because at the end of the day, she's one of those women who hangs out with these different celebrities who come to Vegas and had something allegedly going on with Trey Songz at some point and a few other people. So I'm just saying that's what they told me. Now, if it's a lie, they told it, and I absolutely believe it. Okay, I absolutely believe it. And here's the thing. I think that also she still has a soft spot for Diddy. Because even after all that stuff she claimed Diddy did to her on that Touch K interview in 2019, she went right back with him and was even online arguing with Young Miami about him. Okay? Okay, so which I thought was interesting. Now, with that all being said, I have some more footage of Jaguar Wright when she spoke to the press yesterday. So let's listen to that, and then we'll go to another video as we wait for more updates.
Paramount. There needs to be someone here who's been here all along. I've been waiting for this moment for 5 years, and here we are. And I'm praying that everyone remembers there are survivors, real life survivors. And I hope that everyone takes into account how necessary a true verdict, a just verdict now, 25 years of pain, 25 years of hurt. And I'm praying that God's just going to do what he told me he's going to do. So I hope we're all just staying in vigilant prayer for everyone on all sides of this. These are human issues, and we need to have real human response.
Jaguars are cute. You plan to be here every day? I mean, during this trial, we're expected to be here.
I'm going to be around.
Have you spoken with anyone who might be possibly testifying, or have you spoken with anybody?
That I cannot say. But what I will say is my prayers for Al Shore are being answered day by day. From the moment that we found out he flatlined to the moment we found out he came back. I'm here vigilant for that. Justice for Kim Porter. Support for Cassie.
And I had to get up out of there. We got Jaguar right after Jay.
All right, y'all heard that. Jaguar had some big arse bodyguards too. 3 of them, it looked like. Okay, so now with that all being said, let's go to this next video. Let me see if we got any updates. Nope. Okay, last update was 7 minutes ago. So let's go to this other report where they're talking about testimony from yesterday.
Opening statements are underway in the Sean Diddy Combs sex trafficking trial. Prosecutors claim Combs ran a criminal enterprise with his trusted inner circle and committed crime after crime for 20 years. Now the defense is responding, accusing the government of trying to turn choices among consenting adults into a racketeering case. The defense also says the now infamous hotel security video of Combs and then girlfriend Cassie Ventura shows a fight over a phone. ABC's Rena Roy is outside the courthouse, and legal analyst Ariva Martin is taking a closer look at that case for us. So, Rena, what sticks out to you so far from these opening statements?
Well, Diane, we have been watching Sean Combs closely as he listens in on these opening statements. And I can tell you that he's sitting at the defense table with his arms crossed. He looks pretty passive. He doesn't appear to have much of an expression on his face as he listens into pretty explicit detail that's being laid out by the prosecution. He did meekly stand at one point as the defense introduced him to the jury. But the prosecution went first, telling the jury Sean Combs to the public was a cultural icon, that he was larger than life, but that there was another side to him, a side that ran a criminal enterprise for 20 years. They went into detail about the drug-fueled sex marathons that they say Combs forced women into, including his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. But the defense is arguing in their opening statement, as you said, that the government is trying to turn relationships and choices involving consenting adults into a racketeering case. And they say that that will not work. They say to the jury he might appear to be a jerk or mean at times, but that's not what this case is about. Diane.
So, Ariva, what do you make of these opening statements so far?
Pretty much what I expected, Diane. I knew the prosecution would come out swinging to try to make their case that this is a racketeering case, that this involves violence, it involves coercion, it involves transporting people across state lines for sexual intercourse and for this kind of conduct that's been described in these freak-offs. And we also knew that the defense would push back. Their claim is that this is all consensual sex involving adults. And they're also suggesting that this video that we're going to see of Cassie Ventura is not a video of violence and coercion in terms of sex trafficking, but rather it's domestic violence. And that domestic violence is not one of the charges that Sean Diddy Combs is facing in this case.
Yeah, we also heard the defense attorney say something to the effect of he's not being prosecuted for being mean or being a jerk, trying to keep the jury focused on, is he guilty of these charges? Not, do you think he's a good guy? And of course, Diddy maintains his innocence here and has throughout. So what do you also make of the defense's strategy in insisting that prosecutors are trying to criminalize what they are saying is Combs' private, personal sex life?
Well, we've seen this before, Diane. This is a common defense that we see in these cases when you have adults, when you have people who are over the age of 18 involved in these cases. But that is going to be a very difficult burden for the defense to meet. It's been reported that at least 4 victims of the sex trafficking are going to testify. And of course, Cassie Ventura is going to be a star witness for the prosecution. One of the things that the defense is also trying to do is to paint these women as strong, confident women that made decisions about being in long-term relationships with Sean Diddy Combs. We know a lot of people don't understand why victims of sex trafficking don't come forward sooner and faster. Why don't they go to the police? Why don't they report this to friends and to others? So that's going to be the question these jurors have to grapple with. If these women were in fact being coerced, why didn't they say something sooner? Why didn't they report it? And they're going to have to understand, at least that's what the prosecution wants them to understand, is the huge psychological and emotional toll that this kind of conduct takes on its victims.
And Rena, they could even start calling witnesses today. How is the prosecution expected to start that part of this trial?
Right. So we know one of the first witnesses will be an escort. And following that, an early witness who is expected to be key for the prosecution's case is singer and ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura. She is expected to lay out for jurors her side of her relationship with Combs. And prosecutors say that these are painful details of her life that she's going to be sharing. We're expecting it to likely be pretty emotional as we hear from her.
All right, Rena Roy, Ariva Martin, thank you both.
Hey guys, Toby Mathis here, and question.
Okay, still waiting for more updates. So I'm gonna give you all some of the some updates from this other source, okay, because they may have some more information. Okay, so let's get into it while we're waiting. Okay, so this is from 32 minutes ago, okay? Why Cassie Ventura's testimony is so key to the prosecution's case, according to legal analysts. Cassie, this actually isn't an update. This is just what they're saying about Cassie. We'll get to the updates. Cassie Ventura, the former girlfriend of Sean Diddy Combs, could take the stand today as day 2 of the trial against the embattled music mogul gets underway. Ventura, who is also one of Combs' accusers, is expected to testify as a central witness for the prosecution about her years-long relationship with Combs, and her testimony could really be the key to the government's case, according to CNN legal analyst Jennifer Rogers. She says sometimes prosecutors put on an FBI agent, for example, to be kind of the narrator of what happened here. But in this case, Cassie Ventura is that narrator here. Rogers told CNN, adding that the government needs to show that this was not just SEX, this was coercion. This was a concerted plan involving not just him, but a lot of other people, including people who work for him, to bring people across state lines for these big SEX parties, and that it was not voluntary. Rogers said other witnesses will serve the purpose of corroborating and adding to Ventura's story for the prosecution. Ventura, who's referred to as victim 1 in the indictment, has chosen to testify under her real name. Prosecutors claim Combs coerced her into having SEX with male prostitutes during sexual performances called freak-offs, according to the indictment. Combs' attorneys have said all SEX was consensual. Okay, so 25 minutes ago, judge allows messages between Combs and Ventura to be brought up. Defense attorney Ana Estavio told the court they intend to bring up messages between Sean Diddy Combs and Cassie Ventura when she was out of state and he was concerned she was cheating on him. And she told him she hadn't responded because she had gotten into a bar fight. See, I told y'all they were going to bring up other incidents where they said Cassie was violent and Diddy was nowhere around. Once in the chat, if y'all remember me telling y'all that. Once in the chat, if y'all remember me telling y'all that, I think it was Sunday or Monday. It wasn't yesterday. I told y'all this before then. I think I even told you Friday or Saturday or Sunday. But nonetheless, didn't I tell you all? I said they're going to bring up other incidents where they say Cassie was violent and Diddy was nowhere around. Okay, because my source already told me that. Now, with that all being said, she was in a bar fight. Estavio said the incident demonstrates that Ventura had substance abuse issues independently of her relationship with Combs. Judge Arvin Subramaniam overruled prosecutors' objections and allowed the incident to come into trial. So the prosecutors don't want that coming out. They don't want to depict her as, oh, she gets into a bar fight. Because what kind of person gets into a bar fight? Really? Think about it, ladies. Ladies, think about how many times in your lives you've ever gotten into a bar fight or a fight at the club. Now, I know some people get into those types of situations, but those are certain types of people. Please pay attention, okay? So with that all being said, not a good look, Cassie. Definitely not a good look. Not saying it's going to help Diddy, but it still don't look good. Okay, Daniel Phillip back on the stand for another day of testimony. Okay, Daniel Phillip, the mail review manager who testified yesterday that he was paid to have SEX with Cassie Ventura on several occasions, is back on the stand. Defense attorney Xavier Donaldson will continue questioning him soon. Okay, the jury is now entering the courtroom. Okay, 10 minutes ago. Phillip continues to detail sexual encounters with Ventura and Combs. Defense attorney Xavier Donaldson asked Daniel Phillip again on the first day he had sex with Cassie Ventura in front of Sean Diddy Combs. Okay, saying not long after he left the hotel room following his first sexual encounter, Ventura called him to ask if he'd come back that same day, Phillip testified. Phillip said that he agreed to return to their hotel room at the Gramercy Park Hotel, where he and Ventura again had sex for a few hours. When asked, Phillip testified that Combs did not direct him and Ventura, he didn't direct him and Ventura as to how they should have sex that day. So this day, Diddy wasn't in the director's seat like he normally is, telling them what to do. Oh, put more oil on her. Oh, yeah, rub her right here. Now touch her right there. And here's something else. Remember, I think I told you all at the beginning that he said that Cassie's the one who told him to put the golden shower on her. Okay, and then both she and Diddy were supposedly telling him how to do it. Like, don't do it so fast. Because remember, the judge, or not the judge, but the prosecution said that somebody did that, the golden shower to Cassie's mouth, and she was choking. Okay, because it was coming out too fast and too hard, evidently. So they told him how to do it. Okay, please pay attention. Now, with that all being said, He says that this time, Diddy was not directing and telling them what to do. So Ventura appeared sober, he says. Okay, Phillip testified. He said he didn't see her drink alcohol or take any rugs with a D while he was with the couple. When Donaldson asked if Ventura seemed in complete control of everything she was doing during the encounter, he said, I cannot say. Okay, he said, I cannot say. Now, 7 minutes ago, defense attorney Phillip about witnessing assault on Ventura. Defense attorney Xavier Donaldson asked Daniel Phillip again about the time he saw Sean Diddy Combs assault Cassie Ventura at their home or at her home. Phillip confirmed that he went to Ventura's home or her apartment after she sent him her address and they had sex before the assault. He confirmed that she did not appear to be under the influence at the time. Phillip said Monday that after the assault, Combs pushed Phillip and Ventura to continue having sex. Donaldson challenged Phillip's trial testimony with a report from a previous law enforcement interview that he gave in 2023. When he told investigators that Combs told him, yo, man, I'm going to need to deal with this. You need to get the F out. On the stand, Phillip said he didn't recall telling investigators that. Well, sir, it looks like you did. Okay? It looks like that's exactly what you told them, sir. They got the receipts. This is not looking good. These defendants or these witnesses need to be making sure that they tell the same story on the stand that they told when they had those interviews with the police in 2023. Now, excuse me, what's happening right now? Back on the stand, the prosecution's second witness, the mail review manager, is continuing his testimony in the federal trial of Sean Diddy Combs. Yesterday, Phillip testified about his sexual encounters with Combs and the music mogul's former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. Graphic video, they say. The jury also saw hotel surveillance footage from the 2016 incident. Okay, now here's another update from a minute ago. Defense attorney asked Phillips to confirm parts of his testimony from yesterday. Defense attorney Xavier Donaldson is now reviewing parts of Daniel Phillips' testimony from yesterday when prosecutors questioned him. We're not hearing any new information as Donaldson is asking Phillip to confirm details he already said on the stand yesterday. Okay, so possibly trying to catch him in a lie. But also, here's Cassie's attorney. I'm going to put this on the screen. I'm going to let you all see this video. It's like a minute long, but it looks like Douglas Wigner had something to say outside the court. Okay, hold on. Let me turn this up. What's she talking about? Hold on.
What do you call that? A black SUV? Yes. Yes. Oh,
Want me to push into the crowd?
sure. Well, if you can get them. It'll be so nice, and I don't have to just bet.
Who's this pulling up, I wonder? We'll see in a minute.
Yeah, Rosanna and Kirk, good morning to both of you. This could be a very gut-wrenching testimony from Cassie Ventura, who is currently pregnant. But to backtrack into yesterday for a moment, prosecutors told jurors to prepare to hear about nearly 3 decades of the defendant's crimes. And also, they plan to give jurors a look into Sean Diddy Combs' inner circle, who allegedly enabled him. Now, we'll give you a look right now what's going on at the courthouse because it is 9 o'clock and court is expected to start any moment. We know some attorneys have arrived already, some family members There is a black SUV right now in front. I'm not sure if you can see, but there is a swarm of media with cameras ready to capture whoever steps out of that vehicle. And that is what it's going to be like during the duration of the whole trial. It's what it was like yesterday when things got underway. But we also heard from Sean Diddy Combs' publicist, who gave us a look into how he's feeling right now. She said he has been staying positive and optimistic, especially because his family has been here to support him. Take a listen. Combs' family, including his mother Janice, plus his 3 sons and twin daughters, all arrived at the courthouse yesterday morning. They will be back today. His children stepped out of a black van holding hands. Prosecutors called their first witness to the stand, Israel Flores. He's now an officer for the LAPD, but in March of 2016, he was assistant director of security at a Los Angeles hotel when he got a call that a woman was in distress on the 6th floor. That woman was R&B singer and Combs' ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. Prosecutors showed jurors the now infamous video of Combs kicking and dragging her down the hallway. Flores testified that he recorded the hotel's video of the attack on his cell phone, and prosecutors have maintained that the video is a key piece of evidence. The second witness was a male escort named Daniel Phillip, who testified that he was paid $700 to $6,000 to have sex with Ventura while Combs watched and gave instructions, with their first encounter happening back in 2012. Phillip told jurors he stopped participating after he saw Combs throw a bottle at Ventura and then drag her by her hair into a bedroom as she screamed, saying he too feared for his life. As Phillip went into the details, Combs' daughters left the courtroom not once but twice during the most graphic moments. Singer-songwriter Jaguar Wright said she came here to support the victims and briefly spoke outside the federal courthouse yesterday.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Clear things up here, fellas.
Sharp today, brother. Sharp, man. I see you, man. I'm get like you, man. Sharp. You got two on the list. Sharp. Old side. You gotta be Mike to bring out the side. Old side. That's all right, but y'all gotta do as long as I ain't in y'all shot. Okay.
Is there any message for the alleged victims?
Do you still
apologize on behalf
innocent?
of your father?
Do you believe your father's innocent?
Do you still convinced your father's innocent? Do you apologize on behalf of your father? Any message to the alleged victims? Any message to the alleged victims?
How are you guys feeling this morning?
Okay, so with that all been said, let's get into some updates. Hold on. I'm going to leave this on the screen. I'm just going to mute the sound. Okay, there we go. Okay, I'm just going to mute the sound for a moment. Okay, so where are they? Okay, so on the two incidents, this is the judge. On the two incidents with Ms. Ventura, when we discussed this last week, the defense says the assault in Connecticut, messages between Ms. Ventura and Mr. Combs, it's relevant. The judge says, let's see if there's an issue. AUSA Johnson says it should be excluded. Okay, then Tina Garagos, Diddy's attorney, says he suspected she was cheating on him. She did not answer her phone. She got into a bar fight and tried to kill someone. Tried to kill someone. Say what now? She got into a bar fight and tried to kill someone. So it's relevant to his suspicions and her substance abuse outside of her sexual relationship. Tina Garagos then says she was taking rugs with a D while close with her family in another state. The judge says, I overrule the government's objection. This can be asked about. Now, prior consistent statements. We're talking about a sequencing issue. Are they on direct or in rebuttal? AUSA says, in their opening, they said Ms. Ventura made her own choice. They asked, who really had control in this relationship? Clearing, begging the answer that it is or was Ms. Ventura. Exhibit B 13 or 315. The threat to release the SEX tape. They said only she had it. Now, Diddy's attorney Alexandra Shapiro then says, we submit that these are hearsay until redirect. The judge says if they come in, they're in. We don't object, or you don't object. She says we do. What we said in the opening was that Mr. Combs, the judge cuts her off and says, you seem to say she was lying about threats to release videos. Shapiro says the predicate for prior consistent statements hasn't been met. The judge says, I find that it has. For this exhibit, the defense opening said there will be millions of reasons for people to testify here. That's the attack that was used as B316 too. Okay, so that's what they were talking about. See, we got more context. Okay, so, but the standard has not yet been reached as B332 and B339. Okay, get Mr. Phillip in the witness box, then bring in the jury. All rise. Okay, so I'm going to go back over some of this because that just gave us more context as to what they were talking about and what they were trying to get admitted or not admitted. Okay, it is information about Cassie having gotten into that bar fight to show that she has a propensity towards violence, and specifically must be very violent if she supposedly was trying to take somebody up out of here. Okay, so that's what the defendant's trying to show. All right, so they get Mr. Donaldson back up on the stand. While you and Miss Cassie Ventura were having SEX for hours, Miss Ventura took the lead. He says, no. Donaldson says, who took the lead? He says, we were equally doing our thing. There wasn't a leader. Donaldson says, you decided together? Phillip says, yes. Donaldson then says, fair to say she was in complete control of everything she was doing? Phillip says, I can't say that. Donaldson says, you didn't wear protection? He says, I did not. Donaldson says, your boss told you Miss Cassie Ventura paid for the hotel? Phillip says, yes. So she paid for the hotel. Donaldson then says she paid with her credit card. The dancer, Phillip, says, I have nothing to do with that. She used her card to pay for the dancer. I have nothing to do with that. She used her card to pay for the dancer. That's what he says. Donaldson then says, okay, that assault at her apartment on 11th Avenue. Phillip says, I believe it was West End Avenue. Donaldson says, you claim Mr. Combs told her to come over. She said she had her personal information on the computer. So wait a minute. And he threw a bottle at her? Correct. He comes out and says, are you ready? Are you guys ready? Is what Phillip says. Donaldson says, isn't it true Mr. Combs told you, yo, man, I'm going to have to deal with this. You need to get the F out. Phillip says, that is not correct. Donaldson says, in 2023, didn't you tell prosecutors, he said, yo, man, AUSA, objection, not in evidence. Judge says sustained. You can only use it to try to refresh his recollection. Donaldson says, read it yourself. Does it refresh you? Phillip says, I do not remember saying that. What I am reading here. Get the F out. So he's basically saying he don't remember saying that. AUSA says objection. Judge says disregard that. Donaldson then says, did you date a model named Malaya? He says, Malaya, and I didn't say I dated her. We were friends. Donaldson says, you were with her and saw Cassie with someone that wasn't Mr. Combs. He says, yes. Donaldson says, you told Malia you saw Cassie socially. He says, yes. Donaldson says, you thought Cassie wanted to see you one-on-one. Nothing to do with Sean Combs, right? He says, I don't see what you mean. Donaldson says, in front of the Dream Hotel, that's what you thought. He says, no. Donaldson says, you only saw her inebriated one time. Philip says, I saw her passed out on the couch. Mr. Combs told me, I don't think it's going to happen today. Remember how I told you all that was going to come back around yesterday? Y'all remember? I told you when he said he saw her slumped over on the couch, she didn't look like she was, coherent or whatever. Like maybe she was drunk. Diddy said it's not going to happen today. That made it sound like that Diddy didn't make her do these things when she was not herself or didn't know what she was doing. Now, we'll find out later more evidence because he probably did, of course, but I'm just saying for the jury on the outside looking in. Okay, so anyway, says, I don't think it's going to happen today. Donaldson then says, the time with the other male, you rotated? He says, not correct. Donaldson says, you watched? Yes. So now I'm not sure if he answered yes because it doesn't say a name. It just says you watched and then it says yes. So I'm going to assume that Philip said yes, he watched. Okay, Donaldson then says, you said Mr. Combs was directing, but do you recall meeting the prosecutors on March the 28th of 2025 and telling them you didn't recall Mr. Combs giving directions about positions? He says yes. Donaldson says, so he didn't direct? Philip says incorrect. Donaldson says, you thought you were in a relationship with Cassie, didn't you? Philip says, no. Donaldson says, you wanted to get along with her to date her. Philip says, if she'd let me, I would have. Huh, he should never have admitted to that because I could see where this is going, but let's keep listening. Donaldson says, you'd get jealous of Mr. Combs. He says, no. Donaldson says, did you not tell them that Mr. Combs would tell you it's my turn? AUSA says, objection. Can we have a sidebar? They know where it's going to, honey. That's why they want a sidebar real quick. Donaldson then says, didn't you tell the government that you would feel jealous because you liked Miss Ventura romantically? Philip said, I do not recall that. When people say I do not recall, understand they're usually lying, okay? Just keep that real. They're usually, or not to say they're lying, but they usually don't want to answer the question, so they just pretend they can't remember, okay? Not to my recollection, that's what they'll say, or I don't recall. Please pay attention. Now, Donaldson says, put up 35 and 70. He must be talking about exhibits. AUSA says, just for the parties. Philip says, I do not recall that. Donaldson says, nothing further. They obviously had some proof of receipts that he did say it. They obviously had some proof of receipts. The judge says, redirect. AUSA says, please explain why you now say Mr. Combs directed you. Philip says, he asked about positions, but Mr. Combs did tell us what to do, use baby oil. AUSA says, the timing of the handing of cash, how did the amount compare to your stripping services? He said $3,800 more. AUSA says, how much were you paid to perform when you could? Philip says $700 to $5,000 or $6,000. AUSA says, and when you couldn't perform, Philip says they paid me nothing then. AUSA says, did Miss Ventura call you after the Dream Hotel? Yes. Okay. Ooh, honey. So that's where we're at right now. That's where we're at right now. What are y'all thinking? It's getting juicy. What are y'all thinking? This is getting real juicy. Okay, please pay attention. All right. So with that all being said, now why did this video stop?
That it was systemic and calculated. So that's something to keep in mind. Yeah, I mean, the question that we saw is, what about Diddy's apology video? And that's true. Diddy did put out that apology video that came out directly afterward. And so, and sometimes in the news business, it's sometimes hard to, if you're not the one who obtained the video, right? So CNN is the one who initially had that video as their exclusive. And so for a lot of other news outlets, can you verify the authenticity of the video? You have to sort of figure out a way to get your own way of making sure that is Diddy in the video. Well, then Diddy comes out and he apologizes for the video and the actions that happen in the video. So in some ways, he is acknowledging that that's him in the video, without some reporters having to check in with this and check in with that. I mean, Diddy is acknowledging that that's him in the video. He said he was disgusted with himself.
Okay, another update. So, hold on. Okay, so defense attorney Xavier Donaldson is done cross-examining Daniel Phillip. Prosecutor Maureen Comey is now questioning Phillip on redirect examination. Comey asked Phillip in quick succession to confirm who would direct him and Cassie Ventura to rub baby oil all over each other, who would direct him to have sex, and who would direct Ventura to give Phillip oral sex. Each time he answered Sean Combs. Now, Daniel Phillip, the mail review manager, has wrapped up his testimony. On redirect examination, prosecutor Maureen Comey asked Phillip to recount his recollection of the moments after he watched Sean Diddy Combs drag Cassie Ventura into a bedroom and then heard what he believed to be Combs beating Ventura. He said he experienced erectile dysfunction because he was shook by the altercation. He said, I was completely shocked and messed up in my head. There was nothing I could do, he said. She was afraid. I could see she was afraid. Ooh, honey. Okay, so then they say the next witness hasn't been called yet. The parties are at a sidebar. Okay. Judge Aaron Subramanian just dismissed jury for a 10-minute break. So they're on break, you guys, for 10 minutes. So while they're on break for 10 minutes, I'm going to let you all listen to this video, and I'm going to make me a smoothie real quick, okay? I'm going to make me a smoothie real quick because, honey, y'all not going to have me up here like I was yesterday, starving and all that. Okay, please pay attention. Okay, so let me start this back, and I'm going to remove myself for a minute.
So that was a significant moment in this entire investigation, because that was one of the first times that Diddy had publicly acknowledged just the wrongdoing involved here. I mean, and keep in mind that at this point for Diddy, it wasn't too long before that video had come out, right around the same time, but he was actually given the keys to New York City, in a sort of symbolic gesture. Because of his influence. He had just opened up a charter school in the city. So this is someone who, of course, is, not just a music icon, but a New York City icon. Him in the East Coast rap music of the time in the early days. And, of course, his spin-offs for some of the different projects that he did, incredibly influential over the course of time. And so when he comes out and puts that video to apologize for what happened, maybe he was hoping he could get ahead of it, put a lid on it, and it would end there. Turns out that was just part of the escalation before the FBI and everyone else raided his house, took away all that evidence, the boxes of evidence that they took from his homes in Florida and Los Angeles, or Florida and California, and now here we are at this moment where we are right now. the way that it may be noted in the actual indictment itself, but just sort of the everyday way you might describe it. Were you afraid? Did you feel like you could leave? Did you feel like you were allowed to do certain things? No, you were being controlled. Okay, that's manipulated. Okay, so that's kind of where we're going to see it there. And then, of course, they're going to want her to detail specific incidents with supporting evidence. So they're going to really anchor her testimony to key events already introduced in court. That video, 2016, the freak-offs, orchestrated sexual encounters, bolstered by some other witness testimony. So we heard on that first day, the individual Daniel Phillip, who testified about those sex acts. Yes, here we go. And that's a good point. Why did Cassie not take him to court? Not sue him sooner. So that's a good point, because that's something that I wanted to get to here, because the defense will, of course, they'll have their chance to respond. And so after the prosecution will lay out their case, the prosecution wants the jury to take away a couple key factors. That Cassie Ventura didn't consent. She complied out of fear. Sean Combs wasn't just a bad partner. He was manipulative and abusive, an orchestrator of criminal operation. This was not a broken relationship. It was about power, profit, and exploitation. That's what the prosecution wants to get across. So what does the defense want to get across on their side? Well, they want to undermine her credibility. So likely they'll highlight the settlement in 2023, the civil suit. And they'll imply that there was financial motive involved there. No doubt about it. They're going to bring that up. They're going to talk about that. They're going to ask how much was involved. Probably along the way, there's going to be a lot of objections from the prosecution, but the defense is really going to press forward with that case. They're going to suggest inconsistencies between her lawsuit, interviews, and her current testimony. So, when you have those lawsuits, depending on how far it got, you'll have a deposition. And a deposition is where you'll have sworn or said something under oath. And so you have that record. That record will be there. The attorneys for the defense will have that there, and they will likely introduce that into evidence. So then when she testifies in court today, tomorrow, the next day, if there's an inconsistency between what she testified to during the deposition of her civil suit, between what she's talking about today in her criminal suit, they're going to point out those discrepancies. And maybe it was a mistake, maybe it's something else, but if they can make enough of that, maybe it sways a juror, maybe it influences a juror to think, well, what's really going on here? They're also likely the defense will likely, I hope that kind of answers the question, a little bit there. Anything else we want to kind of hit on there? I got another key point I was going to try to test. And of course, I mean, if you're a defense attorney and you have a situation like this, which is so sensitive and so unique in a sense, given who Diddy is, who Cassie is, and the nature of their high-profile relationship. I mean, this isn't just sort of like a boyfriend and girlfriend. These were people who were photographed every time they went outside. And so the defense is also going to try to reframe their relationship as consensual. They're going to ask about instances where she stayed with Combs voluntarily. Maybe they went on a vacation. Maybe she got a gift. Maybe they were in a public appearance together. And so they're going to be able to cite these examples without a doubt. If that did happen, there's going to be receipts of a vacation that was maybe taken, a gift that was given. And certainly, if an alleged incident is supposed to have happened on this date and 2 months later, there's a public appearance together, the defense will say, well, this is a consensual relationship. You weren't forced to stay there. And they're going to suggest that there was coaching or manipulation maybe by the prosecution. Did you meet with the prosecutors before? Have you had a chance to do this? Have you had a chance to do that? Those kind of questions always come up. And then the question, how long she waited to report. So float the idea that her story had been shaped or encouraged by outside influences. So whether it's true or not, that's what they're going to do. And really part of what they're going to do, and it's a very sensitive situation when you have someone who's the victim of domestic violence, who really, by both sides, nobody is not arguing that Cassie in that video wasn't the victim of domestic violence. I mean, even Diddy acknowledged it. But they're going to try to paint Diddy as a victim here, that he's the alleged incidents where Combs was harmed or controlled by Ventura. They're going to try to flip the script a little bit. And they're going to suggest that the dynamic was mutual and not one-sided. They're going to try to downplay those freak-offs. They're going to say, look, maybe that's not what you're into. Maybe you're not in a position to have something like that, but that doesn't make it a crime. So that's certainly going to be part of what they say. Emphasize her age, the lifestyle that they live together, and they're going to say she was a willing participant in everything that happened. So the prosecution, they're going to try to make this connection. The defense is going to try to pick it apart. The prosecution's goal is to show that she complied out of fear and that this was power, this was profit, this was exploitation. At the same time, the defense is going to try to plant reasonable doubt about the non-consensual nature of the relationship without appearing to attack her character too aggressively, which could alienate the jury. Very fine line between attacking the character of a potential domestic violence victim and trying to point out inconsistencies in her stories, where maybe what she said in the deposition is different than what she is now testifying to in court. So those are some of the things that you really want to keep your eye on as you're watching some of the developments that come out today. So I just want to sort of reset the scene. It's 10:50. We know that the judge has said he's likely to approve media requests to view videos described as pornographic, which will be shown to the jury. He's giving both sides another day to submit arguments, aiming to balance privacy with public access to the trial. Okay, so what does that mean? A lot of times the defense and the prosecutors will present different pieces of evidence to the judge while the jury is not in the box, and while the things that the jury is not allowed to hear, because they're not sure if it's going to be part of the case or not. They're not sure if this piece of evidence is going to be
Okay, so you guys listen to this. This just in. So they say Sean Combs' defense wants to bar Ventura's husband from court during her testimony. Defense attorney Tini Garagos is making an application that Cassie Ventura's husband be barred from the courtroom for her testimony. Garagos says that Ventura's husband may be called in Combs' defense case if certain testimony comes up when Ventura takes the stand. Garagos says the defense will not make an application to bar any other family members of Ventura's from the courtroom for her testimony. She said Ventura's brother and mother are expected to be in the courtroom to support her. So here's the thing. They likely don't want the husband there because he's going to testify against Diddy too. Okay, because they say Ventura's husband may be called in Combs' defense case. Okay, if certain testimony comes up when Ventura takes the stand. So they don't want him to hear what Cassie's going to say so that he can try to corroborate or tailor his testimony to hers. Okay, so that's what that's given. All right, it's getting juicy, folks. Please pay attention. Stay tuned. You heard it here first.
Entered into testimony. There may be a video that the prosecutor wants to show that the defense is going to say, well, we didn't get a chance to view this video and authenticate that it's real yet, so you can't introduce this. And the prosecutor might make an argument. The judge is going to listen to that argument, and then the judge is going to decide one way or the other if that's going to be entered into evidence. That'll happen when the jury is not there. If it is entered into evidence, then what the judge is also saying is that at some point, maybe even soon, the day of the different testimony, that the public, you, me, the media, TV, all the web sleuths out there, everyone commenting on our YouTube page, and thank you for watching our YouTube page. You'll be able to see it too, analyze some of this stuff for yourself. So the headline, of course, that Cassie Ventura, who is Diddy's ex-girlfriend, really at the heart of the prosecution's case here, she is expected to testify today and potentially over the next few days. and it's that surveillance video that the jury did see yesterday on the first day of this trial that will be at the heart of some of what she testifies to. That's a good question. Will they end early? Have you ever had a good government job? I'm not saying that they end early, but a lot of times they do stick to a very strict schedule. Usually there's a break in the morning. They're not going to work. They usually don't work from 8:30 to noon. There's usually like a 15 to 20 minute break that's worked in there. And in this case, this is a lot of heavy information. There might be 2 breaks. So sometimes they need to take these breaks because like you were discussing there, they do need to talk about what will or will not be entered into evidence. So a lot of it really depends on when they can get Cassie on the stand. I don't believe that she started testifying at this point. I'm not sure if she's even in the building yet. I haven't seen those photos. But if she's able to take the stand after lunch, maybe in the 1 o'clock, 1:30 range, then yes, they probably will go until about 4 o'clock, maybe 4:30. Usually that's when court lets out. But if it's like 3:30 and she hasn't taken the stand yet, it's possible it might not happen today. They're saying that this case could take 6 to 8 weeks. And it's because a lot of this is there's so many details involved. There's so many text messages. There's so many little pieces of video, little evidence here, evidence there, and some of the things that they don't always agree on, that before they can move forward, the judge has to make a decision. So there haven't been any huge decisions yet from the judge. Biggest one that's come so far is who's going to be on the jury. And after they got that all sorted out yesterday, we got things rolling today. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yesterday, one of the first witnesses to testify is a man named Daniel Phillip. So initially, when a witness like him testifies, the prosecution will ask the questions. So the prosecution goes first. And so they're going to lay out this initial timeline. What did you do? What were you doing back in 16? How did you know Diddy? How did you come in contact with him? And then after you did, was there ever a time that you did X? And what he testified to is that he was hired to engage in sexual acts with Cassie. And so that is a critical piece of information. Okay, good. So 10:56. It is May 13th, and we're on the second day of the Diddy trial. And so the update that we just got here, like literally just into the newsroom, is that the judge has called for a 10-minute break, and that will be prior to Cassie's testimony. So in open court, a lawyer for Combs asked that Cassie's husband not be allowed in the courtroom while she testifies because he might be called as a witness. So in other words, they're going to ask her current husband not to sit in the courtroom while she testifies, which is difficult, because they want to be able to ask them individually. So he doesn't hear what she says. She is not going to hear what he says. Of course, she's going to go first. All right, so that was the update that we just got a few minutes ago, that it looks like Cassie will be testifying probably in the next.
Okay, so another update in. Cassie Ventura's husband will be allowed to sit in the courtroom to support her for a portion of her testimony. They said for a portion. Okay, so clearly there's parts he's going to have to leave to, it sounds like. Sean Diddy Combs' attorney, Tina Garrigo, said the defense may need to call Alex Fine to testify about allegations that Combs raped Ventura in the summer or fall of 2018. Ventura's husband can remain in court for her testimony until the 2018 allegations come up in her testimony. Okay, that's what the judge ruled. Ventura's husband was not on Cassie's witness list. Judge Aaron Subramanian says going forward, the defense must give the government more notice if they intend to make applications like this. Assistant U.S. Attorney Emily Johnson said those allegations may not come up in her direct cross-examination until tomorrow. Okay, then they say Ventura's husband enters the courtroom. Cassie Ventura's husband, Alex Fine, just walked into the courtroom and sat next to Doug Wigder, Ventura's attorney. Fine is staring at Combs, who just re-entered the courtroom and sat down at the defense table. Court is still on a short break, and testimony is expected to resume soon. Okay, so they're still on break, guys. One more update. Cassie Ventura takes the stand. Cassie Ventura, Sean Diddy Combs' former girlfriend, has now taken the stand in the government's trafficking case. Y'all get ready for it. Against the music mogul. Earlier today, Ventura's attorney, Douglas Wigner, said she was very ready to take the stand and told reporters she's confident. Well, let's get into it, honey, because I'm here for it. Okay, how about
next 10 minutes? And you might be saying, well, where can I watch it? Why can't I watch it? Federal court, no cameras are allowed inside. That's why we get those sketches. So there are reporters who are inside. There is an overflow room, which does have members of the public. So believe it or not, if you did want to go to the trial, you essentially have to get there today to try and get in for tomorrow. But there is an overflow room. There are media members there, and some of the pool updates are coming from out of there. So here's what's going to happen. Cassie is going to testify. The prosecution will be asking her those questions first. What will the prosecution try to do? They're going to establish an emotional connection with the jury. They want the jury to believe Cassie. They want the jury to believe that this is a woman who's the victim of domestic violence, who's at the center of this criminal enterprise that Diddy was orchestrating. And the prosecution needs her to be believable. And so they're going to establish a timeline. When did she know Diddy? How did she meet Diddy? What was the status of their relationship? What initially drew her to Diddy? She might say, she might say that she was attracted to him, that she enjoyed his presence. She thought, maybe try to humanize him in some ways, or at least make their relationship seem believable. And they're probably going to use open-ended questions to try to humanize her, making it like easier for jurors to empathize with her. This is a jury. 12.
Okay, so I'm going to mute him for a second because we're about to watch, and I'm going to stop the share as well, because we're about to watch her attorney. We're about to see this clip from her attorney, Douglas Wigdor. Okay, so likes up, everyone, please like and share. All right. Sheila says, Queen, thank you for your hard work in presenting the receipts and following this case. Blessings. Thank you, beloved. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for your kind words and your contribution to the channel, beloved. Peace, love, and blessings. Now, let's get into it, because here's what Douglas Wigner said right outside the courthouse today.
Big difference. With Hollywood Feed's same-day delivery, our very own drivers are right around the corner. So your pet gets what they need from the people who know them best, delivered right to your front door. With over 100,000 five-star reviews and private label brands made in the USA, we're the local pet store, no matter where you live. Hollywood Feed. We're a different breed.
Is she ready?
Very ready and confident. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we are standing by for what could be the most critical testimony in the entire federal sex trafficking trial of Sean Combs. His ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, is expected to take the stand. Now, she is the woman he attacked in a hotel surveillance video from 2016. Prosecutors said Combs coerced her and another woman to participate in what he called freak-offs. They said he called himself the king and expected to be treated like one. He expected his inner circle to cater to his every desire, including his sexual desire, and his inner circle made sure he got everything he wanted. Now, prosecutors plan to show the jury video of these drug-fueled, days-long sexual performances. Lawyers for Combs say the videos will show consenting adults. They say the evidence is going to show you a very flawed individual, but it will not show you a racketeer, a sex trafficker, or somebody transporting for prostitution.
Okay, so y'all heard that. Now, there's another update which says Ventura testifies she was in a relationship with Combs for a little over 10 years. Prosecutor Emily Johnson showed Cassie Ventura a photo of Sean Combs and asked her to identify him. When asked how she knew Combs, Ventura said, "We were in a relationship for a little over 10 years. Okay. So we'll just keep following. Now, I'm going to keep listening to this guy also because he is able to get the receipts quicker. He's a news broadcaster, so clearly. Sorry, I actually forgot to share the screen. I'm just sitting up here listening to myself. Hold on.
Be testifying probably in the next 10 minutes. And you might be saying, well, where can I watch it? Why can't I watch it? Federal court, no cameras are allowed inside. That's why we get those sketches. So there are reporters who are inside. There is an overflow room, which does have members of the public. So believe it or not, if you did want to go to the trial, you essentially have to get there today to try and get in for tomorrow. But there is an overflow room. There are media members there, and some of the pool updates are coming from out of there. So here's what's going to happen. Cassie is going to testify. The prosecution will be asking her those questions first. What will the prosecution try to do? They're going to establish an emotional connection with the jury. They want the jury to believe Cassie. They want the jury to believe that this is a woman who's the victim of domestic violence, who's at the center of this criminal enterprise that Diddy was orchestrating. And the prosecution needs her to be believable. And so they're going to establish a timeline. When did she know Diddy? How did she meet Diddy? What was the status of their relationship? What initially drew her to Diddy? She might say, she might say that she was attracted to him, that she enjoyed his presence. She thought, maybe try to humanize him in some ways, or at least make their relationship seem believable. And they're probably going to use open-ended questions to try to humanize her, making it like easier for jurors to empathize with her. This is a jury, 12 men, 12 women. They've never met Cassie before. Likely have maybe not familiar with her music, or even the sort of history of this case. That's why they're on the jury here. But the prosecution also wants to build this chronological narrative. So they're going to question from the beginning of the relationship to its decline. And what they want to establish is that there was a pattern of escalating abuse and control. So really a step-by-step account reinforcing the idea that this was not an isolated incident. This was not an accident. This was systemic, and this was calculated. That's what the prosecution really needs to lay out here. And I talked about it before, so I apologize.
Okay, so I want you all to pay attention to what he is saying, okay? Because that's exactly what I already told you guys. Okay, I forgot. Someone in the comments asked me, someone in the chat asked me, I think it was Queen Sam, who's clearly nosy, what kind of smoothie I'm drinking. Well, it's blueberries, strawberries, banana, oats, and beets, just a small piece of beets, ginger, and I know I'm leaving out something. Oh, kale. And everything's organic, a little bit of turmeric, some organic cinnamon, and that's it. And oat milk, okay? And it's delicious. And for those of you who follow the spiritual channel and you have one of my smoothie ebooks with all the smoothie recipes that I love, y'all know that it's good, okay? Queen Sam said I didn't meant to be a nosy. I know, it's okay. It's okay. I'm nosy too, beloved.
You guys are saying he's like a mob boss. And they're saying you guys are overreaching here. But anyway, so Cassie's testimony is going to be directly linked to really the key elements in this case: the hotel incident, the freak-offs, where these orchestrated encounters that are also bolstered by some of the other witness testimonies, there's going to be allegations of drugging and allegations of threats. And
hold on. Donna said add chia seeds. I do have chia seeds, beloved. I have chia seeds and I have hemp protein. Okay. I always use both of those. Thank you.
And okay, so the question was, can Cassie's husband be in the courtroom while she's testifying? One of the attorneys, the defense attorneys, did not want him to be in the courtroom. And so they argued about that. And the judge has just said that he is allowed to be in the courtroom. So he will be inside. Possibly that he will be called as a witness later on in the case. So they didn't want him in there while she was testifying. However, her testimony is so important that that they're going to allow that to go forward without sort of tripping up. Yeah, and we know that look, Cassie it's a difficult position for anybody, and certainly for someone who's the victim of domestic violence, and now she is pregnant with a new husband, and this is talking about essentially her ex-boyfriend, and when you make it that simple. So here we have.
Okay, so more updates. Let's talk about it. Donaldson says, this document, do you see where you said, I'm on the Upper West Side? She says 10 West End Avenue. Hit me when you're there. Philip says, yes. Donaldson says, do you see your text? Don't give a uck if I'm a little tipsy. I love y'all. N-word. Philip says, yes. Donaldson says, and that was after the beating? Philip says, yes. Donaldson says, nothing further. Because you said, I love y'all. But you saw Diddy beat Cassie, and you said that made you feel some type of way. But why would you say, I love y'all? That's what he's saying. Okay, and then he said, don't give a uck, I'm a little tipsy. So they may say something about the fact that he was tipsy. Well, or they may have wanted to bring that out, that he admitted to being tipsy, because that could impair your judgment, maybe. Okay, so please pay attention. Now, Donaldson, he says no further questions. Okay, then AUSA says sidebar before the next witness. The judge says yes. And of course, the next witness is Cassie. Judge says, jurors, take a break. We have some issues to deal with. Jurors then leave. Combs' attorney, Ana Maria Estavio, says, we'd like Miss Ventura's husband to not be allowed in the courtroom during her testimony. We may need to call him as a witness later, depending on the direct. AUSA Johnson says, I am not sure how Mr. Fine's testimony would be relevant. Judge says, Ms. Garagos. Then Teeny Garagos says, give me 15 seconds. If he wants to come in to the courtroom today, but we ask that he be excluded when the testimony gets into post 2018. AUSA Johnson says, in my initial examination, I will ask about post 2018, but only about devices. Judge says, Ms. Garagos. Teeny Garagos says, that's okay. Judge says, we'll be back in a couple of minutes. Okay, so that's it so far. That's it so far, honey. Let me check my other source. Okay, looks like I have a couple more updates. Okay, this from 5 minutes ago. Ventura says she suffered injuries from the abuse. Cassie Ventura said some of their arguments would be violent and result in some sort of physical abuse. She says he would smash me in the head, knock me over, drag me, kick me, stomp me in the head if I was down. She said of her relationship with Sean Diddy Combs. Johnson says, this is the prosecution, how frequently was sheer physical with you during your relationship? Sheer. They must mean Sean. I don't know why they put sheer, but how frequently was he physical with you during your relationship? She said too frequently. Ventura said she suffered injuries from the abuse, including knots on her forehead, busted lips, and bruises all over my body. Ventura describes what a freak-off entails. Prosecutor Emily Johnson pulled up a still image of the well-known hotel surveillance video footage from the Intercontinental in 2016. Cassie Ventura said the image showed her leaving after an encounter that we called a freak-off. Ventura was asked how she and her former boyfriend, Sean Diddy Combs, started doing freak-offs. She says, within the first year of our relationship, he proposed this idea, this sexual encounter that he called voyeurism, where he would watch me be in intercourse with a third party, specifically with another man, she testified. Ventura went on to say that a freak-off would entail hiring an escort and setting up this experience so that I could perform for Sean. She said she couldn't remember where the name freak-off came from, but she said that Combs introduced it to her. She says, eventually it became a job for me, pretty much. So I knew if it was something he wanted me to do, I had the contacts to set it up and get a hotel room and all of that. But in the beginning, Sean set it up. He was in charge, she testified. Okay. Where is this all going, honey? This is about to get real messy, y'all. It's about to get real messy real quick, but we're locked in. We're locked in. Okay, pay attention. We ain't going nowhere.
And they are going to have to make it clear from the prosecution side that she felt like she couldn't leave, that she felt like if she left, she was going to be subjected to violence. And so that's going to be what they need the jury to come away with. But the defense wants to undermine that credibility. As you rightly point out, some of this stuff happened years and years ago, and the civil suit wasn't settled in 2023. So the defense is going to imply that there was a financial motive. They're going to suggest there are inconsistencies between her deposition and whatever she testifies to today, because when you give a deposition, there's going to be hours of testimony that will already have been recorded as a part of the civil suit. And if there's anything in there that doesn't line up with the testimony that happens in criminal court, the defense is going to make a big deal out of that. So you can be sure that Diddy's defense team, you know, they're a high-profile team. So they have scoured every detail of what she has said previously in that civil lawsuit. And if she breaks from that at all during the prosecution's testimony or when they get a chance to cross-examine her, they're going to make a big deal out of that. And so some of that may be, why didn't you leave before?
The judge says jurors break. Okay, we have some issues to deal with. The jurors leave. Hold on, beloveds. Okay, I was on the wrong section. I'm like, didn't I already read this? Hold on. Hold on, I'm trying to make sure I'm at the right place. Stuff's coming through kind of fast here. Hold on. Okay, let this keep playing until I get this situated. I don't want to read anything out of order.
Some of the highlights that the defense is going to talk about there. And maybe float the idea that her story has been shaped or encouraged by outside influences. And they're really going to question how long she waited to report. So just to update, kind of the bottom of the screen there, I think you can see it, is the courthouse, Lower Manhattan. High stakes testimony today. That is where Cassie, as we speak right now, is on the stand. I'm expecting.
Okay, so here it is. They're back from the break. All rise. AUSA Johnson says the government calls Cassandra Ventura. She takes the stand, extremely pregnant. AUSA Johnson says, how old are you? She says 38. AUSA says, what is your work? She says, musician and entertainer. I'm sorry, Cassie, know darn well she's not a musician or entertainer anymore. Okay, just say you don't work. Okay, because that's the answer. AUSA says, how long were you with Sean? She says 10 years. AUSA Johnson says, did you get in arguments? Ventura says, yes, it would result in violence, dragging. AUSA says, what else did he do? Ventura says, stomp me in the head if I was down. AUSA says, how frequently was he violent? Ventura says, too frequently. I would get black eyes and bruises. AUSA says, let me show you a video. She plays the elevator hotel video, the lobby. AUSA says, where is this? Ventura says, the Intercontinental in Los Angeles. It was after a freak off. AUSA says, what does it entail? The hiring of an escort, setting it up. Now, mind you guys, as I told you on yesterday, some of this stuff, it'll be repetitive. You'll hear me say it more than once, but that's because I'm getting my information from different outlets. And so some of them may go more into detail. So we get tidbits of information more, okay, in some cases. Now, AUSA says, how did you feel when he first asked for it? Ventura said, confused, nervous. I wanted to make him happy. AUSA says, did you agree to one when he first proposed one? She says, yes. Then there was more. It wasn't something I wanted to do, at least not that frequently. Pay attention. She said, at least not that frequently. So that means she did want to do it sometimes. Okay. Did y'all catch that? Because that's what I caught. So that's why she was setting them up, perhaps. Now, anyway, I find this all interesting. But let's keep listening. Here's another update. Ventura says, she didn't know how to refuse freak-offs. I just didn't feel like I had much to say in it. So Cassie Ventura recalled on the stand when Sean Diddy Combs first proposed freak-offs to her. She said she remembers the feeling of her stomach falling. I also felt a sense of responsibility. It was him sharing something like that with me. I was confused, nervous, but also loved him very much and wanted to make him happy. So I knew it wasn't something I wanted to be doing, especially as regularly as it became. But again, I was just in love and wanted to make him happy. Ventura said she didn't know how to refuse freak-offs. She says it got to a point where I just didn't feel like I had much of a choice. Didn't really know what no could be or what no could turn into. She said Combs controlled a lot of her life, from her career to the way she dressed. And I just didn't feel like I had much to say in it at the time, being really super young, naive, total people pleaser. I didn't know if he would get upset enough to be violent or if he would write me off and just not want to be with me at all. Ventura says she kept broken laptops, iPads, and phones out of fear material would become public. So that's why she kept the freak-off videos. Cassie Ventura testified that she was also afraid that the blackmail materials would become public. She said she kept broken laptops, iPads, and iPhones because she didn't know what material was on them. She also said Sean is a really polarizing person, also very charming. So it's hard to be able to decide in that moment, like what you need when he's telling you what he wants. Okay, now I'm just wondering why she's saying that she kept these broken laptops and iPads and phones for fear material would become public. So is that why she's saying she didn't want to throw it away because it could become public? I'm just wondering, is that why she's saying that she kept it because if I throw it away, maybe somebody will find it? Is that what it is? How about break it all, smash it to pieces, take out the SIM cards, destroy that? How about that? I still don't understand why she kept all that stuff for all these years. Okay, I'm sorry. It should be very much so re-traumatizing. If all these things that she's saying are true, it should be very much re-traumatizing. I just don't see why anyone in their right mind would want to keep it. But that's just me. Okay, that's just me. Because here's the thing. The defense could try to paint this as though she kept it for memories. Or she kept it because there was really nothing nefarious happening because she knows this was all consensual and not coerced. That's what they could say, but we'll see. I just have a problem with you claiming to be such the victim, and then you keep stuff that is clearly should be traumatizing for anyone that's a victim. I just don't understand that. Okay, I don't understand it. Latasha says she was a plotting beach queen. Okay, maybe she didn't know that someday, somehow, some way, she was going to bring it out. I don't know, but at the end of the day, there was some specific motive. Not just happenstance that she has all that stuff saved on all those different devices. And she even had 9 whole freak-off tapes. What's that all about? And here's the thing. Is the defense, I'm just curious, is the defense going to say anything about the fact that Cassie said that Diddy was the one who had the freak-off tapes because he recorded it and that he was using it to hold over her head for blackmail? Okay. But if Diddy's the one who had all the tapes, how did she get 9 of them that she gave to the feds? So I have questions. And I'm going to tell y'all something else that I figured out too. While I was thinking last night, I figured out this. Remember how we were all trying to figure out who leaked the video to CNN? And everybody was saying the feds. And I said I thought it was Cassie's lawyer, Douglas Wigdor. And I said then that I thought that he probably did it so it would establish Cassie's credibility. Because if Cassie's saying Diddy was beating her and making her do stuff, and Diddy's sitting there saying, no, he didn't, she's just after a money grab, that reaffirms what she said about the beatings and all of that. And I felt her lawyer did it because I said the Fed should know that could compromise the case. Then I further asked my uncle, who's a retired special agent from the GBI and who also worked with Homeland Security investigations as a case agent. And he said, absolutely, the feds would not do something like that unless they're stupid. He said that would absolutely compromise the case. So now, you know who leaked it? Well, I'm so glad you asked. Officer Israel Flores. Yeah, that's who leaked it. That's who sent it to CNN. He's the only one who had a copy. You see, Diddy paid $100,000 to the hotel to get that footage, and they gave it to him. The only other person who claims to have recorded it on their cell phone, okay, and in fact, the video footage that they're using in court right now came from Officer Israel Flores. So he's the one who leaked it to CNN. So that should make the prosecution, they should have asked him questions about that. I would have. Are you the one that sent that tape to CNN? What was your motive behind that? See, that would have made it look like he himself may have been prejudicial against Diddy, because cops don't like black people. We all know it. Let it be said from every mountaintop. They don't like black folk. Most of them. That's what I would have said. Okay? That's what I would have said, honey. I'm glad I ain't did his lawyer, because he'd be getting off. Pay attention. Pay attention. I'm just telling y'all. Now, with that all being said, here's the next update. Combs and Ventura's relationship started platonically, she says. Cassie Ventura testified that she signed a contract with Bad Boy Records, Sean Diddy Combs' company, in 2006, early 2006. She said that before she met Combs, she knew him as larger than life, music entrepreneur, and she met him when she was just about 19 years old. Ventura said she had a platonic relationship with Combs in the time just after she signed with his record label. She said he looked out for her when she had a few rough performances. Prosecutor Emily Johnson then showed the jury a photograph of Ventura and Combs together in 2006, the same year she signed her record deal. Okay, so that's the latest one. Now let me check this other source real quick. Okay, that's it so far. So anyway, so what do you all think about what I just told you all? TT Santiago says no one should be calling Diddy innocent. He paid her because of what he knew he did to her, full stop. Well, again, Diddy didn't pay her. The insurance company did. Diddy didn't want to pay her in the first place. Diddy, that's why they had to negotiate for 6 months. And Diddy wouldn't give her a dime. The insurance company gave Cassie the money. It was their choice. Okay? Terry Hunt says, Queen, if you was a lawyer, defense couldn't beat you. You mean the prosecution? You mean the prosecution? Because I wouldn't be the prosecution. I'm going to be the defense. Okay? I don't like the police like that, how they do black folk. I don't like this corrupt criminal justice system. And at the end of the day, I would be the defense attorney in any case. Okay? I wouldn't be helping the state with anything. But that's just me. All right. Natural Disaster says, have you seen how he handled her? Pure evil. Absolutely. Diddy is absolutely evil. We all know that because we all saw. We all saw it go down. But at the end of the day, that's not what he's here for. We're not here about domestic violence, somebody being mean and nasty and having a violent temper. We're here about RICO charges, trafficking, force, fraud, and coercion. And also to engage in, selling people, soliciting people, and all of that. So Reggie said, I ain't helping the state at all. That's what we're not going to do. Latasha said, Queen, I think her husband's funds ran out and she remembered them videos. Oh, I've been saying that. I agree. I think her husband's the one that put her up to it in the first place, beloved. I think it was her husband who put her up to it in the first place. Let's not forget who men like Alex Fine like to get money from men who look like Diddy. Y'all know it's true. Now, some people don't want to hear that, but it is the truth. Let's just keep it a buck. So I think that he was the one that prompted Cassie to sue, to try to come after Diddy for money. That's just my opinion. Now, I could be wrong, but I believe it. Yep. Cassie Ventura testified that she saw Sean Diddy Combs about once a month at social outings in 2006. In August of 2007, while celebrating her 21st birthday in Las Vegas, Combs kissed her in the bathroom. I was just really confused at the time, she said. Nothing that was a young new artist who just didn't really know the lay of the land when it came to things like that. She testified that she cried and ran off. Did you want to kiss Sean at your 21st birthday? The prosecutor, Emily Johnson, asked. She says, no, not at my 21st birthday. Prosecutor Emily asked Cassie Ventura how Sean Combs influenced her career at the time. She said, he called most of the shots. Well, all of the shots. I had a new record. I would play it for him. He chose what was next for me, basically. All right, honey, this is going to be juicy, you guys. It's going to be real juicy. Y'all know it's true. Reggie said, I don't believe they're all that naive. Okay, Natural Disaster said, I'm an astrologer and I see the deviousness written all over Diddy's chart. He's capable of inhumane things you'll never imagine. Honey, I can imagine. I keep telling y'all, I think Diddy had everything to do with the death of Tupac. That's why Diddy needs to go down. He needs to go down. But is the prosecution going to be able to do that with the evidence they have? I have questions. Okay, at the end of the day. And now that you say you're an astrologer, beloved, listen, I study astrology and numerology too, okay? I study all things spiritual, right? So with that all being said, I think I told you all last week or the week before that Diddy's sign had the seal of Satan. Didn't I tell y'all that? So I already know how nefarious he is. Diddy's the damn devil. Y'all think it's a game? Okay. All these people turning up dead that Diddy knows. Y'all don't think that's very suspicious? Who knows all these people that died? Let's talk about it. Let's count them. So first off, there was Kim Porter. Now, I'm not saying Diddy killed any of these people, but I just want y'all to pay attention because ask yourself, do you know anybody else? Do you or anyone else that you know all these people that have died mysteriously in some cases even? So let's talk about it. So first let's talk about Kim Porter. And then you have Heavy D. And then you have Andre Harrell. And then you have Black Rob. And then you have Dr. Frank Ryan, who Diddy just happened to get into it with about Cassie's breast implants that he did. That man drives off a cliff. Well, you know, maybe that's just what happened. But Dr. Ed Winter, the man who was the coroner for Kim Porter initially, but then he was suddenly fired, taken off the case. And this is because I would imagine, I wonder if it's because he said that there were toxins in her body. Okay, that it wasn't natural. That's not where he was going. They're talking about lobar pneumonia, but he wasn't thinking that. He was saying there was toxins in her body. There was something going on with her blood. He needed to do further research, but he got fired and somebody else hired. And then years later, when Kim's family and Kamora Lee Simmons start talking about reopening the case, the investigation into Kim's death, he turns up dead. So then there's that. Not saying Diddy had anything to do with it, but let's not forget Tupac and Biggie. Why didn't I say them first? What was I thinking? Yeah, Tupac and Biggie. All right. So with that all being said, I mean, the list goes on and on. What's the other guy's name? Shakur Stewart, who Diddy threatened to kill, and then he was dead. They said he did it to himself, but, you know, Diddy did say he was going to do it. And this is a man who was dating Kim Porter, and we all know how Diddy gets so jealous about his women. So all of these people, let's not forget Tracy or Erica Kennedy. Erica Kennedy, who wrote the book called Bling. She was one of the best friends of Kamora Lee Simmons. She wrote a book called Bling about a music mogul who started someone else's career and it was loosely based off of Diddy. And she said in an interview, y'all know, you heard it here first, I showed y'all the receipts. I even did a TikTok about it and everything, where she said that basically, she said something about Diddy's parties, about what goes on at those parties. She mentioned that in an interview, or she mentioned knowing some stuff about Diddy, basically. And then, you know, she died. Her autopsy was never publicly released till this day. Nobody seems to know why she died. Maybe her family does, but nobody else. So I thought that was very interesting as well. Okay. Let's not forget Aaliyah. Y'all do know that Diddy knew Aaliyah too. And then Mary J. Blige, who's good friends with Diddy, was on an old episode of 106 in Park, and I showed it to you guys, and she said, and I quote, that from what I heard, it wasn't supposed to go down that way. It was a spiritual murder. Now, she didn't say a spiritual death. She didn't say a spiritual suicide. She said a spiritual murder. Now, what's a spiritual murder? I think you call that a sacrifice. So what's really going on here? I have questions. Y'all remember that picture I showed you of Diddy, J-Lo, Aaliyah, Dame Dash, and all these other celebrities laid up in the bed together? Mm-hmm. Nipsey Hussle, okay? Nipsey Hussle, he was doing fine. Then all of a sudden, he starts hanging out with Diddy, thanks to Lauren London. And then all of a sudden, Diddy's his executive producer on his album. And we all know Diddy can't produce nothing but lies and nefariousness, my opinion. But at the end of the day, then Nipsey's now dead. So y'all don't think this is just kind of crazy? Okay. Did I mention Heavy D and Craig Mack and Black Rob? Let's not forget how Al B. Sure almost died. I'm just saying, very interesting when we all think about it. Okay? So no updates as of yet. So let's just register too many connections. Exactly. Exactly. Okay, so let me see what else I have for you all while we wait. Let's go to some footage. Well, here's one with Fox News talking about Diddy. Let's get into it. They're talking about day one, the testimony from yesterday.
One of the celebrity trial gripping much of the nation. Sean Diddy Combs, once one of entertainment's most powerful moguls, accused of crimes so heinous, he faces the possibility of spending the rest of his life behind bars. He's denied all charges. And just a warning, this story contains accounts, descriptions, and visual content of actual or alleged events that some may find disturbing.
Mom, how are you feeling? How are you feeling today, Mom? How is your son?
Can't talk about the case at all.
All eyes are on this New York City courthouse as the federal trial for disgraced mogul Sean Diddy Combs begins.
Music mogul Sean Diddy Combs goes on trial today.
Combs is inside the courtroom along with those prospective jurors.
He faces multiple charges, including racketeering and sex trafficking.
The musician famous for hits like Bad Boy for Life.
What I've been.
Trafficking, transportation for prostitution, and racketeering conspiracy. The 55-year-old has pleaded not guilty to all charges.
Today was a monumental day when we're talking about Sean Combs, P. Diddy, Puff Daddy. At one point, he also had the actual key to New York City. So to see him today facing trial on federal criminal charges is completely a downfall of who Puff Daddy, who Sean Combs was.
Prosecutors allege he used his power to force women into prolonged drug-fueled orgies he called freak-offs, and then threatened them into silence.
The freak-offs, according to prosecutors, were these
sex marathons. Some of them lasted days, and they were fueled by ecstasy or other party drugs. And women were not allowed to leave.
Highly anticipated at the trial, the testimony of Cassandra Ventura, the singer better known as Cassie, who is at the center of this now infamous video. The disturbing scene appears to show Combs chasing her down a hotel hallway in 2016, knocking her down and kicking her. The first evidence shown to jurors today, videos and photos from that violent encounter.
Everyone was leaning in and focusing and watching this video. Literally, you can hear a pin drop in that courtroom.
A security guard who came onto the scene in the aftermath of that attack testified that Diddy had a devilish stare and Cassie had a purple eye. Another witness alleging he was paid to have sex with Cassie while Diddy watched and told to urinate on Cassie.
You heard so much about sex during the prosecution's opening, the defense opening. You heard about oral sex. You heard about missionary style. You heard about baby oil being put on people's body. You heard so much. This is not a case for the prude.
Cassie and Diddy were in a romantic relationship for almost a decade, releasing hits like disturbing 2023 civil lawsuit against Diddy changed everything, helping spur the federal criminal investigation into the mogul. Diddy has denied these allegations and settled that suit without admission of wrongdoing. Diddy's mother and children arriving to court this morning to support him, along with Combs' spokesperson.
Obviously, this is like a horrific time for the family, so they're just trying to hold steady in their faith and make sure that they take care of each other.
And how is Mr. Combs feeling?
Upbeat. I think, obviously this is a huge deal, and so he's just ready to have his side told in open court.
Are you drowning in payday loan debt? Have you taken out multiple payday loans?
Okay, so another update. Okay, so the last thing I think I told you was Cassie talked about the freak offs, and she said she didn't expect to do it that frequently. Okay, so Ventura says, I didn't know what no could turn him into. AUSA says, what do you mean? Ventura says, making him angry. AUSA says, what were you afraid would happen if you said no? Ventura says, though time, he had blackmail materials. Blackmail materials is what she says. Okay, what did you give the government? She says laptops. The reparationist perspective says, I just love me some you. Thanks for all that you do, sister. Thank you, beloved. That is so nice. I really appreciate your kind words and your contribution to the channel. Peace, love, and blessings. Thank you. So she gave them laptops. AUSA says, I've handed up GXB. Do you recognize it? Ventura says, yes, I've reviewed this drive. It has communication and documents pertaining to Mr. Combs. AUSA says, did you view photos on it? Ventura says, yes. AUSA says, what's this photo? Ventura says, me in 2004 with Carrie Morgan. AUSA says, when did you sign with Bad Boy Records? Ventura says, 2006. It was a 10-album deal. AUSA says, did you release any after late 2006? Ventura says, no. Who's in the photo? Ventura says, Kim Porter. She was Sean's ex from before me and the mother of his children. I knew that's the picture they were talking about, y'all. I knew that's the picture they were going to show. Okay, so AUSA says, where did you celebrate your birthday in this photo? Ventura says, in Las Vegas. Carrie Morgan was there too. We were out on his patio on my 21st birthday, VMAs. AUSA says, what happened then? Ventura says, Sean kissed me in the bathroom. I ran back to my hotel. I told Carrie. AUSA says, when you got back to New York, she says, when you got back to New York, like if that's when you told him. Ventura says, I'd visit him in the Trump Hotel in Columbus Circle. His apartment was being renovated. AUSA said, what were you doing, or what were you going with your music? Where were you going with your music career? Ventura says, trying to keep up. Hold on, beloveds. She says, trying to keep up with a concept. Sean called all the shots. AUSA says, what is the age difference between you and Sean? Ventura says 17 years. AUSA says, how did you feel when Sean invited you to hotels? She says, nervous, excited. We're going to talk about music. He introduced me to fellatio. Okay. I didn't understand it. She didn't understand it. Y'all, it's given that Cassie's trying to play the little sweet and innocent. Okay, I'm sorry. You didn't understand it. What didn't you understand about that? I have questions. AUSA said, did you visit Sean in Miami? Ventura says, yes. I went with Carrie Morgan in Dallas, Austin. AUSA says, what did you and Sean do together? Ventura says, sexual intercourse. He gave me Blue Dolphin. That's one of those pills that start with the letters X, T, and Z. Okay. She said he gave it to her on a boat. AUSA said, had you once before taken XTC, Z unintentionally? So she's implying that Diddy gave it to her without her knowledge. Is that what she said? AUSA says, how did you take this unintentionally? Ventura said it was in Gatorade. AUSA said, when you took it intentionally with Sean, how did it feel? She said, like rolling. AUSA said, at the time, what did you think? Ventura says, that we were spending a lot of time together. Ooh, honey, this is getting real salacious. Hold on. The other source has an update. Combs was a fun guy that also happened to have my career in his hands, Ventura said. So Cassie Ventura is detailing the early phase of her relationship with Sean Diddy Combs. After he kissed her on her 21st birthday, she said Combs began inviting her to hotel rooms in New York, where he was staying while his home was being renovated. She said they started to develop a more comfortable relationship with each other. She said, I wanted to be around Sean for the same reasons as everyone else at the time. Just this exciting, entertaining, fun guy that also happened to have my career in his hands. It felt special because not a lot of people got that time with him. Ventura described herself as being sexually unexperienced at the time. During one of those New York visits, she said Combs performed fellatio on her and made her feel crazy for not reciprocating. She said, I was so young, I didn't even have the vocabulary for some of the things that we talked about. Now I want y'all to pay attention. I don't know if this is true, but I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it because at the end of the day, Cassie was dating Ryan Leslie before she was dating Diddy. So why is she acting like she just had never had relations before or just didn't know anything about relations? Okay, I'm sorry. It's giving lies. It's giving trying to act like you ain't did nothing. Okay, I'm sorry. That's what she was with Ryan Leslie. Y'all didn't have relations. Y'all didn't do some things. Like, I'm not, this is sounding crazy to me, but let me continue because it might be all true. Okay, so anyway, with that all been said, she says, I was just so young. I didn't even have the vocabulary for some of the things that we talked about. I was also still in a relationship with someone else. Eventually, Combs, Ventura, and other friends took a trip to Miami, she said. Ventura said she took XTZ that Combs gave her while they were drinking and partying on a boat. Ventura said she and Combs had sex for the first time on this trip. She knew about that, didn't she? Okay, Cassie Ventura testified that she became one of Sean Combs' girlfriends after the Miami trip. Sean Combs had many girlfriends, she said. At the time, I knew that we were spending a lot of time together, one-on-one, and I really felt like we were in a monogamous relationship for a period, she said. Their relationship wasn't public for years, okay, because she was his artist and because of his family. Yeah, Kim Porter. Right. Kim Porter. Now, here's the thing. Here's what I want you all to pay attention to. Because you see, on the jury, several of the jurors are ages 50 and over. Now, why is that important? That's important because older people view things in situations like this much differently from younger people. Okay? Would you all agree that older people view these things differently than younger people? Okay, think about that. All right. So anyway, still waiting for more updates. This is all getting real juicy. Well, it's all getting real juicy as far as I'm concerned. But right about now, I'm not falling for that part about she didn't know nothing about SEX, basically.
Had he been charged with assault, we would not be here right now.
The defense said that Sean Combs may be a lot of things. He may have committed domestic violence, but those aren't the crimes the defense said that he's charged with. So in effect, the argument is he's a criminal, just not the kind of criminal they say he is.
The first testimony of the trial taking jurors to Los Angeles, March 2016, in the hotel where that surveillance video was taken.
If you ask me what had the biggest impact on getting my health back in track, I'd say working with the nutritionist. The best part is working with...
The first witness, an LAPD officer who worked security at the hotel, he says he responded to a call for a woman in distress on the 6th floor.
When he got to the floor, he noticed that there was glass on the floor, that the vase and the flowers were broken.
The security guard described going back to Diddy's hotel room and standing in the doorway while Ventura grabbed her things. Inside, another man sitting at the corner of the bed.
So from the very start, the first witness brings the jury into that hallway where he said Sean Combs looked at him with a devilish stare and Cassie Ventura had a purple eye.
Sean Combs tried to offer him money, to give him money to make this go away. And he said he wouldn't accept the money.
The second witness to take the stand, Daniel Phillip, a man who said he was paid to have sex with Cassie on multiple occasions at several high-end New York City hotels while Diddy watched. The witness said he was paid between $700 and $6,000 each time.
So Mr. Phillip agreed to go to the Gramercy Hotel to do a performance for a bachelorette party. At least that's what he thought. But when he got to the hotel, to the room, that Cassie opened up the door. He did not know that was Cassie, and that she told him, well, it's my birthday and my husband wants to do something special. So can you give me a massage with this body oil? And then we can just take it from there and see where it leads.
Diddy allegedly in the corner masturbating, wearing a bandana over his face. During these meetups, he says Diddy would often give directions and at times tell him to step off and back up because he was going to get some.
Sean Combs's children, his mother, came to court to support him, but when the testimony became graphic, his daughters stood up and walked out. When they came back in at one point, the testimony got more graphic about ejaculation, about urination. That was too much. They turned and walked out again.
Phillip also described witnessing Diddy drag and hit Cassie. When asked by prosecutors why he didn't intervene, he testified, "My thoughts was that this was someone with unlimited power, and chances that even if I did go to the police, that I might still end up losing my life." Cassie, who's now 8 months pregnant, is expected to take the stand tomorrow.
Cassie's the case. Cassie Ventura, who has not spoken about this publicly except in a civil lawsuit, is taking the witness stand as a star witness.
Her husband and father of her children spotted at court today. If convicted, Combs could face life in prison.
Okay, so with that all being said, let me read some of these comments because Human Nature says Ryan Leslie needs to do an interview about Cassie and Diddy. Honey, wouldn't that be juicy? Okay, Pretty Wing says, yeah, the jury might say he took advantage of her because she was so young and was older and experienced. They might say that, beloved. Nicole says, Cassie, stop acting innocent. We want the real, raw truth. I agree. Okay, Dr. Doom says she left Ryan for Diddy and left Diddy for Diddy's friend and personal trainer. She's no innocent girl. She's a D-hopping, PISS guzzling, pink coke sniffing, HOE. Oh my goodness. Well, don't on back, Dr. Doom. Tell us how you really feel. Okay. Oh, okay. You said a lot, beloved. Now, but she did leave Ryan Leslie for Diddy and she left Diddy for his trainer. Okay, I'm just saying. What do you think older people feel about stuff like that? Human Nature said that hotel video came back to bite Diddy in the buttocks. Yeah, it did, especially after he paid $100,000 and he thought that was gone. Sad for him. That security guard recorded it and kept it on his phone all these years. Okay, Barnabas Collins says, not necessarily. I'm an older woman and I find your viewers to be way more conversed in theirs. I'm not sure what you're saying. Older woman, I find your to be way more. Okay. Sheila says, I believe Diddy saw Cassie was young and he could control Cassie. Oh, yes. I believe that's always the case when these older men date women half their age. I believe that's always the case for control. So they can be dictating what's going on. And also because they're naive and they can run game on them real quick. Okay. Because they can do that to somebody their own age in some cases. All right. So, Rita said basically like she was a virgin. Hashtag Madonna. Yeah, that's what it's given. Okay, like trying to play all innocent. Like, no. Now hold on, let me see what this is from the Breakfast Club. Is this I'm trying to see, is this the one that we heard earlier, or is this the part 2 that they were going to play? Hold on, let me put an overlay on here real quick so we can see, because I wanted to hear the part 2. I was actually going to find that while you all were listening to another video, and I forgot. Okay, so let me see here. Let me start the music back up. Hold on, beloveds.
Part of, and because she didn't want to be a part of, everything we saw in that video was what happened. Now, Diddy's team is saying,
so that's okay. So I'm gonna start it over because I think
Cassie beating video. So
I think this is the second half of what she was going to say that they were telling us to wait for about 40 minutes to hear. So I'm going to let this play the whole thing while we wait for updates.
An aggressor and already aggressive situation when it came to like the victim that is saying that he put his hands on her. So let's talk about the CNN video, the Cassie beating video. So they called a witness to the stand. This guy was one of the heads of security. So he was like second in command in security at the Intercontinental Hotel back in March of 2016.
So there was only 2 witnesses yesterday. The one you talked about earlier, which was the male escort, is the second. Okay.
Yeah, so actually the LAPD officer security guard was actually the first witness, but we talked about him out of order. But yes, only 2. So this guy was working at the Intercontinental Hotel. He's a security guy who actually responded when Cassie got on the phone in the lobby outside of the elevators and called for help.
The hallway, yep.
The hallway, right? So he said he got on the stand and the prosecutors are talking to him first. So this is the other side. So they're like asking him to run down what happened. So he said he got a report of a woman in distress on the 6th floor. He said he came up, and before he came up, he hadn't seen any of the footage. So he didn't know that it was like physically violent before that. But he said he came up and he was talking to Cassie and Diddy because they're going back and forth, and he's like, yo, y'all got to take this into your room. Y'all can't be out here doing all this. So he said, as he was trying to get them back in the room, Cassie kept saying, I want to leave, I want to leave, I want to leave. And allegedly Diddy was like, no, she's not going anywhere. So he said he had to step in. This is what he's telling prosecutors. He had to step in and be like, well, if she wants to leave, we're going to allow her to get her things and leave, and I'll walk y'all to the room to do it. So he says he walks them to the room. And when he gets to the room, he's able to see inside, and there's a man in dark clothing sitting on the bed.
This is the pink salt recipe that took me from 179 to 126 in just weeks. You know what the best part is? It's natural, easy.
Which is important, right? And I'm going to tell y'all why. Because Cassie is alleging that the video that we saw was her trying to get away from one of those freak off situations that she did not want to be a part of. And because she didn't want to be a part of, everything we saw in that video was what happened. Now, Diddy's team is saying...
so that's why the video matters to the court.
Diddy's team is saying, no, because freak-offs weren't a thing. You guys were consensually engaging in sexual acts, but that's not even what happened here. Diddy's team pointed out the fact that when he comes back out, like after he like throws the vase and he walks away, he has a lit up phone in his hand. He grabs the phone out of her hand. They were arguing over allegedly something that she saw in the phone, that this is just a very tumultuous, like jealous relationship, right? So this guy, he's important. This witness is important because he's going to help you determine which side of that you believe. So he's running down what he saw. He says he saw this guy in the room when he's talking to the prosecutors. He's also saying that, like, you know, after Cassie left, There was like this 7-foot man that like basically like a big man that came and picked Cassie up, and obviously she knew the man, but it was kind of uncomfortable going back to the whole, you know, Diddy's team was helping him orchestrate all this stuff. Yep. He says he went back upstairs to talk to Puff and explain to him the rules of the hotel and that he have to pay for some things. And Diddy had this like devilish stare on his face when he came out of the elevator at one point, and that Diddy allegedly offered him money. So the man is saying that Diddy offered him money because he didn't want any of this to come out, because for her and for him. Mm-hmm. But then they cross-examine him. So now Brian Steele gets up there for Diddy.
Top dog law.
No, let me tell you, we reported about Brian Steele a lot in here, but I have never seen, and he did it so effortlessly. I've never seen nothing like this. So he gets up there and he's like, okay, so you're now an LAPD officer, because they leaned a lot on that, because they want you to look at this man as like he has integrity.
And he's currently an LAPD
currently
officer.
LAPD officer after he left being security at that hotel, right? So he has all this morals and integrity because he's an officer. He understands taking oath and telling the truth. So Brian Steele was like, okay, well, you told us that when you do your incident reports, you got to report the W's, where, what, why, who, like all the details. Mm-hmm. So he goes into the incident report and he says to him, he says, the incident reports are important, right? Because when we're recounting these things, we're relying on your report. So everything in your report is valid because y'all depend on that. He's like, yeah. So he instantly starts getting him. He's like, okay, so you mentioned something about Cassie having a purple eye when you got off of the elevator. Why wasn't that in your incident report? The man said, well, I didn't think that was significant to put in. Brian Steele said, so you thought it was significant today, but it wasn't significant 9 years ago? So then he says, you said that you saw a man inside of their hotel room. Why wasn't that in your incident report? Did you ask the man his name? Did you talk to him? And he was like, no, because the man didn't really say anything. So then Brian Steele was like, well, you also mentioned that you offered to call the police, but Cassie told you not to. Why didn't you put that in your incident report? And he was like, because I didn't think it was important to, like, you know what I mean? She said, don't call the cops.
The obvious answer to all of that is because he was trying to cover up for Diddy.
No, the answer to that isn't that he was trying to cover up for Diddy, Charlemagne the devil. The answer is that he's lying. That's the answer, that he's not telling the truth. Please make it all make sense. He's lying. He's a police officer right now. He probably don't like people who look like Diddy right now. Okay, his name is Israel Flores. What is he, Latina? You know how some Latinas don't like us. I'm just saying, here's the thing. I think he's lying. And why do I think he's lying? Because I have done security when I was in college. I told you all, excuse me, I was a director of security. And the 4 W's, what, when, why, and where. Okay? So yes, you do the 4 W's. And so you also include very important details. You can't include every little detail, but you include the most significant details. And what is significant is definitely the fact that he asked her, do you want me to call the police? You know why that's so important? Because if Cassie comes back later and tried to sue the hotel for her being assaulted there, and the security didn't do anything, didn't even call the police, he would have it in his report that she told me not to. He didn't put it in the report because it didn't happen. That's what I'm trying to tell you right there. I think he's lying. Okay. Now he may have asked her, did she want him to call the police? And she said no, because she don't want to call the police on Diddy. But at the end of the day, some of this stuff I think he's lying about. The purple eye. That was something important to put in there specifically because y'all have it on surveillance footage, him beating the crap out of her. What if she decided to call the police tomorrow? What if she wanted to call the police the next day? She has a window of time to change her mind about calling the police. So wouldn't that video footage and wouldn't the fact that she had a black eye and all that stuff written in his incident report be significant to proving her case? Yes. So that's why that should have been put in there. And also, if there was another person, he definitely should have gotten that person's name and written down a statement perhaps, or if that person said anything to him, because why? That person's a witness. And this is how you do your job as security. See, here's the thing. When you get a job during security, they send you through a training process. Okay? They have you sit in a class and they tell you certain things that you're supposed to do. And from the things that you're told to do, he didn't do them. Okay, now why didn't he do them? I really don't think that he saw a man sitting in that room. Okay, I think he's saying that to go along with the narrative that it happened because of a freak off. Okay, I also wonder why he didn't mention that he put hands on Diddy, because he also said that he pushed Diddy up against the wall. Why didn't he put that in there? Well, because he could have gotten fired from his job if he had put that in there, because you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to de-escalate. Security officers are supposed to do this. Put your hands up and de-escalate. Try to talk the person down, not put your hands on them. And if someone is about to do something to harm you, of course, then you got to put your hands on them to protect yourself. But he didn't say that. He said, Diddy snatched the phone. So with that all being said, at the end of the day, I'm not believing everything that he's selling. I don't know about you all, but I think it was a good idea for Brian Steele to question him the way he did and to bring up some of those things. But I would have even gone a step further, like I told you, and pulled a whole damn Johnny Cochran and been like, have you ever been in any ethical violations at your job as you've been with law enforcement? Have you ever had any citizens to complain on you? What about any inmates or people that you've arrested? Has anyone ever complained about you for any reason? Okay, that's what I would have asked him. Have you ever used the N-word, sir? I would have asked him the same thing Johnny Cochran asked Mark Furman and see if I could catch him in some lies. That's just me. Okay, so at the end of the day, I just don't believe everything he's saying. Now, he may be telling the truth, but I don't believe it. So there's that. Now, here are some more updates. Ventura says she was initially enamored by Combs, but eventually saw a different side of him. Cassie Ventura said once she started dating Sean Combs, she broke ties with her management company, who also managed her former boyfriend. After the Miami trip, she said she fell in love with Combs. She says, I traveled with him everywhere. I was in studios. I was just like his little shadow for a little while, she says. Ventura said that at this point, the relationship was fun, describing it as her first real relationship. Wasn't Ryan Leslie a whole adult when she was dating him? I know she was 19, but how old was Ryan Leslie? Okay, but anyway, she also noted that Combs, it seems like she's trying to act like she was some little school girl when Diddy got with her. That's what it's given for me. And I'm just wondering how this is going to play for the jury. Because it seems like she's acting like she was just some little school girl or naive, never been in a real adult relationship, don't know anything about fellatio. Girl, sit down. I don't believe it. Now, anyway, goes on to say, Ventura said at this point, the relationship was fun, described it as her first adult real relationship. She also noted that Combs' lifestyle was much different than her own. He had assistants at his beck and call. He could get anything done quickly. He had respect from everyone. He traveled quite a bit. Ventura testified that early on, she was just enamored by him. But later on, she began to experience a different side of him, which was his abusive side. You know, I think she needs to just keep it real and just tell the whole truth and nothing but. Okay, I think that's the best thing to do, because you are a victim. Clearly, we saw him beating the crap out of you. Okay, now whether or not he made you have these freak offs, we still are trying to get to that. But please don't mess this up for us who want Diddy to go down, because I think he's a whole thug and a murderer to boot. But please don't mess this up is all I'm saying. But this right here is given that you're just trying to act all sweet and innocent, and I'm not buying it, so I don't think the jury is either. That's all I'm saying. Now, Combs' mood swung different ways quite a bit, she says. On a typical day, Cassie Ventura said she talked to Sean Diddy Combs all day, throughout the day. She said sometimes she wouldn't answer his calls or messages right away, and he would be an incessant caller, or he would have this staff. Yeah, you know, I definitely believe this because we've heard this about Diddy before. Okay. Says that he would have his staff call until she answered. Now, there were times that Combs' assistants or security personnel would locate her for him in person, she says. Prosecutor Emily Johnson asked Ventura to give an example of how Combs' mood impacted her. Ventura said Combs' mood swung different ways quite a bit. The most complicated and the greatest examples are the abuse, because I also felt at certain times when I knew it wasn't even about me, and you make the wrong face, and the next thing I knew, I was getting hit in the face, she said. I believe that. I certainly do. Okay, I certainly do. At the end of the day. Okay, so with that all being said, let's go back to the Breakfast Club and let's hear what she says, because remember, Lauren was in the court yesterday, so she has firsthand knowledge of exactly what all went down.
So no. But like, listen.
Yeah,
so
that's the obvious answer for all of it.
I'm about to keep going. Listen. So he's like, no, because I didn't think that was important. Blah blah. So he's like, so when you say that you saw this man inside of the hotel room, right? can you talk to us about like how the hotel room was set up? Because the point he was trying to get to, but they backed up off of it, was Diddy would have been in a presidential suite or a larger hotel room where if you're standing in the doorway, you're not seeing someone sitting on a bed. You're not seeing a person, and you didn't even put that in your report. So he's like, that makes no sense whatsoever. And then the prosecution had already played the video in full. And then they played these videos he recorded on his phone. And they asked him, well, why would you record videos on your phone? And he's like, because if I had told my wife that this just happened, because I knew who Puff was, but I didn't know who Cassie was, she wouldn't have believed me. That blows, even if he was just trying to cover up for Diddy, that now makes him look like you were so fanned out at this point. We can't trust either side. We can't trust you in defense of Diddy.
He sent the video to his wife?
He sent the 2 videos to his wife. And in the video, you hear him laughing like, look how shiny my shoes are. Like he's...
And let me just tell you all something. I just did a little research real quick while we're listening. And guess what? Come to find out, Ryan Leslie is 46 years old. Cassie's 38. So do the math. But she's talking about Diddy was her first real adult relationship. Cassie, please keep it a buck. Tell the truth and shame the devil. Why is she acting like she's an innocent little schoolgirl when she met Diddy? You were with Ryan Leslie, who's 46, and she's 38. Okay, say what now? Yeah, 8 years older than her. But this is her first adult relationship. But let's continue.
Not taking it serious at all. So then he's like, people were coming up to me afterward that worked for the hotel asking me about this video, and I'm telling them, like, he's super excited, telling everybody about it, telling everybody what happened. But now today you only are saying that you remember certain things that go against Puff while you're on the stand, but you didn't say those things back then.
Because he was covering up for Puff back then, but maybe he got a conscience now is all I'm saying.
But did he get paid by Diddy? Did he take money?
He said he didn't take the money. He said that Diddy offered him a ton of money, and to that Brian still
was a stack.
Yeah, he said he came out with a huge stack of money and he didn't offer it. To that Brian still said, well, you were basically, because he kept saying, I kept telling Diddy how much he had to, not how much he had to pay, but the fact that you had to pay for all the stuff that you messed up. And if Diddy's already saying to you, I don't want this to get out anywhere, he's like, so of course when you came back up to him, he had the money ready or whatever, because you're saying he had all this cash. Like, he had it ready because he just wanted to take care of it and move on.
You know what's interesting? There's nothing they can do or say that is going to minimize what people saw in that video.
That is true. Now, here's another update. Ventura says she thought she and Combs were in a monogamous relationship. Cassie Ventura described her complicated relationship with Sean Diddy Combs. She testified that she thought they were in a monogamous relationship, but soon realized they were not. I didn't get that he was him. He was Puff Daddy, and Puff Daddy has many women, she said, describing how she felt jealous about seeing him with other women. He likes the company of women, and I had to just really learn that over time. Despite that, he would tell me just between us. She continued, she says, he made me feel like we were in a monogamous relationship more often than not. It was really me figuring out that we were not. He expected that from me, so I guess I assumed it was the same. Well, I don't know why she figured that, because he was going with her behind Kim's back. So there's that. He was dating her behind Kim's back for years. So I don't know why she would have thought Diddy was going to do anything different with her. See, some women don't realize however you get a man, that's how you lose him, or that's how you have to do, that's what you deal with if you keep him. So anyway.
And I know that they're trying to keep a different narrative, but
yes.
if you've seen that video, you're not going to forget that video.
Yeah, no, you're not going to forget that video. He's a violent person, but what they're saying is the video didn't happen because of a bad freak off. They're saying the video happened because of a bad argument.
It don't matter why it's happened. I just don't think
they got to prove it.
I don't think that the jurors are going to be able to separate that video from their mind.
They can't. They're going to have to.
No. I think
the jurors are going to have to, because at the end of the day, that beating in that video doesn't prove S trafficking. Okay, it just proves that he was violent, had a bad temper, and all of that. It hasn't, thus far, it hasn't proved S trafficking. So they're going to need more evidence to prove the case, as far as I'm concerned. Now, of course, some of the jurors are going to be caught up with that video and feel like, okay, if he did that, he probably would do anything. That's how they're going to think. But actually, if you go by the facts and receipts, they haven't proven that yet. It's not given that.
It'll still be there, but I think one thing that, because I thought it was weak in the beginning, but when I saw Brian Steele and the way he operated, I said, oh, I understand it. Because think about Brian Steele and everything he just did. He basically made that witness so uncredible, right? Regardless of how you look at him. And then sitting next to that, you have the prosecutor, you have the defense attorney opening up and saying he is, if he was being charged with domestic violence today, he would be guilty. They owned up to all of it. So it's like, what you gonna do?
I understand what you're saying, but when Cassie takes that stand,
I think that might happen today.
And she was young back then, super young. When she takes that stand and she talks, and you look at her in contrast to the money, the power, the age of Diddy, and they're on her, and she's basically saying, I didn't want to do any of these things. It was out of my control. I was getting drugged up, alcohol, getting beat on, blah, blah, blah. All of that's going to go out the window.
They're going to have to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt.
Well, one of them, yes.
And if they're going to have to prove all that without a little bit of doubt that she enjoyed it or she liked it, it's going to be difficult.
That's my whole thing is everything you're saying, I agree with.
Too.
Yeah, they do have videos, but they
need a video
also
of him forcing her.
They have videos. They said that they have audios, and they said they have a lot more. So again, this was just the first day. But I will say, y'all talking about that shadow of doubt. His team was just really good at opening up that, hey, y'all got to do a little bit more to prove this.
You know, Envy said forcing her. Man, running after her in the hallway, grabbing her, trying to drag her ass back is definitely
because they brought that back up. They replayed that part of the video twice.
But what they're saying is they're proving that it was an argument based off a phone. So that was a domestic case that they're saying that he's guilty of.
Got an eyewitness named Cassie that's gonna say otherwise.
And now listen, I heard that. So I wouldn't be for sure. Cassie's getting on stand this week, but I heard that it will possibly be today because we were trying to figure out how pregnant she is. I'm hearing she's due like first week of June. So
damn.
Yeah. So
them visuals gonna be there's gonna be some crazy optics. A pregnant woman on stand crying, talking about abuse that she used to endure. And you're gonna look like a real asshole if you a defense pressing her.
But they're gonna have to. They're gonna have to. But also you got all these other witnesses saying things are different. So it's gonna be a bunch of witnesses and it's how they close this out.
This is just day one.
Yep, I absolutely agree. They cannot go in so hard on Cassie. It's not going to look good to the jurors. Okay, Ventura says she moved to Los Angeles to be closer to Combs because she was in love. Because Cassie Ventura testified that she eventually moved to Los Angeles full-time from New York to follow Sean Diddy Combs. She said he wanted to be near his kids, so she went too. She says, I moved because I was in love and I wanted to be near him. Combs paid her rent during her time in New York, she confirmed. When Combs paid the rent for places she lived, he had his own keys that he used whenever he wanted. Combs lived right down the block from Cassie's apartment in California. She said she could walk or drive about 3 minutes to his home. Ventura said that she later brought her own house in Studio City because she wanted that freedom for myself. She says, I wasn't getting it in a lot of other ways, and there was no fight. Okay. These updates are coming in pretty good, pretty regular. Okay. More regular than they were yesterday, it looks like. A little quicker, at least.
And y'all, this is just me walking away day one. A lot of people I talked to yesterday walked away feeling like, oh wait, hold on, what? He's a messed up person, but like, did he do everything?
So if it's day one, who do you give the score to?
Diddy's team took
Diddy's
day one.
How was he looking real quick? Did
he looked a lot better. He had his haircut and stuff. He's still really gray. He was in all gray and white, but he looks better. His hair was cut.
And then just a question: the first witness that you was talking about, the guy who urinated, was he cute?
Oh my goodness!
No, it was given like he could have been Charlamagne's cousin.
All right.
I seen some of your cousin, Lauren.
That's the latest with Lauren.
No, she didn't say he looked like he could have been Charlamagne's cousin. I am so through. Okay. So with that all being said, let's see if there's any more updates. Likes up, everyone. Please don't forget to like and share. Thank you in advance. Okay, here we go. Hold on. Okay, so they're being asked about the freak offs. Hold on, I'm trying to make sure I have this in order. Okay. So let's get back into it. Okay, so I don't remember what's the last part I read to you all on this one. I think it was the sidebar. Okay, when he was asking, Donaldson was asking Philip, the witness, about him and Cassie. Didn't you want to get her alone so you could date her? Remember? And he said, I would have if she'd let me. And then Donaldson says, you get jealous of Mr. Combs? You'd get jealous? And he said, no. Okay, so then Donaldson says, did you not tell them that Mr. Combs would tell you it's my turn? And then that's when the objection came in and they asked for the sidebar. Okay, so now we're after that. Donaldson then says, didn't you tell the government that you feel jealous because you liked Miss Ventura romantically? Philip said, I do not recall that. Donaldson says, put up 35 and 70. AUSA says, just for the parties. Philip says, I do not recall that. Donaldson says nothing further. Okay, yeah, that's where we ended. Okay, so then the judge says, redirect. AUSA says, please explain why you now say Mr. Combs directed you. Philip said he asked about positions, but Mr. Combs did tell us what to do. Use baby oil. AUSA says the timing of the handling of cash. How did the amount compare to your stripping services? He said 3,800 more. Okay, yeah, we did read all of this. I'm sorry. Hold on. We did go through all of this. Hold on, beloveds. Okay, so they haven't put any more updates. Have they? Hold on. The jurors took a break. Finds testimony would be relevant. Hold on. Conditional examination. Oh, wait a second. I'm really behind. What am I thinking? First of all, of course they're done with that conversation. They were already on to Cassie. What am I thinking? Okay. I'm tripping. That's because I'm multitasking too much. Okay, so hold on. Okay, so this is where Cassie's talking about living in LA and him being insanely jealous. Okay, so let's get to that part. Okay, she was asking her about the XT and the Z. Okay, likes up, everyone, please like and share. All right, Nicole said, hey, I've been here longer. Thank you, beloved, for purchasing a membership. Also, peace, love, and blessings. Okay, so now with that all being said, I'm going to go back to this outside the courthouse, and then we're going to get these updates. Okay, so now here's what they say. Did you visit Sean in Miami? Cassie says, yes, I went with Carrie Morgan and Dallas Austin. That's where we were. What did you and Sean do together? She says, sexual intercourse. He gave me Blue Dolphin. Okay, remember he gave her that when they were on the boat. She said they were spending time together. Okay, she thought they were in a monogamous relationship. What was his lifestyle like? She said he had all these assistants. He could get things done. He traveled quite a bit. What's the photo? Ventura says, Sean and I at a strip club in New York, like 2007, 2008, Halloween. How did Sean's moods vary day to day? She says day to day. Now, mind you, I did already read some of this from the other source, but again, I read from the different sources. It may be repetitive, but some of them give more information. For example, in this case, they're telling us that she was at a strip club with him on Halloween, which we didn't know previously. Okay, so please pay attention. Now, how does Sean's moods vary? Says day to day. Okay, when it swung, could you describe it? Because she said his mood swung, you know, up and down or whatever. Okay, so when it swung, could you describe it? Ventura says anger, zoning out. AUSA says, how did it impact you? Ventura says greatly. The next thing I knew, I was getting hit in the face. There was also psychological abuse. He'd tell me to watch my mouth, change my face. Now, AUSA says, how would he keep tabs on you? She says, we didn't live far apart. He'd send security to come find me or a trusted assistant. AUSA says, like who? Ventura says, David James, Christina Coram. AUSA says, was your relationship exclusive? She says, no. AUSA says, did you see other men? Ventura says, yes. AUSA says, did Sean see other women? She says, yes. He said, I'm Puff Daddy. I was insanely jealous. AUSA said, did you move to LA with him? She says, yes. He wanted to be close to his kids and we were there. AUSA says, where did you live in LA? Ventura says, 875 Comstock Avenue, Wilshire Corridor condos. AUSA says, how tall was the building? Ventura says, no more than 17 floors. AUSA says, where did Sean live? Ventura says, 200 South Mapleton. Sean would use a golf cart to get back and forth. She was real close. If he was just driving on a golf cart, please pay attention. But this sounds like they're getting to the part where he may have dangled that supposed victim over the balcony, okay? Because why is she asking about how many floors did they have? Remember, Diddy supposedly dangled one of her friends over the 17th. She says, who paid your rent in LA? Ventura says, Sean, except when I had the house in Studio City. AUSA says, why did you pay then? She said, I could afford it then, and I wanted to have some control. I was accepted, or it was accepted. AUSA says, by whom? She says, Sean. AUSA says, how many songs did you write with Sean? Ventura says, hundreds. Most were never released. Some got leaked on the internet, some on mixtapes. AUSA says, how many albums on your deal were not released? She says, 9. Did you get paid for them? Ventura says, no. Okay. Ventura says, the freak-offs became a job. There was no time to do anything else but do them, then try to recover. AUSA says, how much time in your week would freak-offs take? Ventura said the longest was 4 days, significant periods of time. Honey, a 4-day freak-off? This is all crazy. Okay, all crazy. Now, I know that they left out something because they went from the prosecution asking Cassie about being paid for her records or her music that she wrote or whatever. And then it goes into the freak-offs becoming a job. So clearly he didn't get all the information in between. He may not have had time to text all of that. So that's why I'm checking more than one source. Okay, please pay attention. Okay, here's more updates. So jury is dismissed for lunch break. The jury is gone, okay? They're gonna come back at 1 p.m. and continue her testimony. Okay, Ventura says she didn't release 9 albums included in her record deal. Cassie Ventura said that she recorded hundreds of songs, and while some of them got released, some didn't see the light of day. She didn't release 9 of the albums that were included on her record deal. Asked how not releasing albums affected her financially, Ventura said her career was stifled. Okay, so they're going to lunch. So I'm about to go to lunch and y'all can go to lunch and we'll be right back at 1 o'clock. You got 30 minutes. I'm going to conclude this broadcast and set up for another one. Okay, so with that all being said, make sure you tune back in because you don't want to miss a thing because this is getting real juicy and the questions are coming good and the information is coming out. All the evidence is coming out real quick, much quicker than I anticipated for it to be this salacious already so soon. We're just in day 2. So just wait to hear what we're going to find out next, okay? So anyway, I love you all to life. I hope you all are enjoying the broadcast. Come right back at 1 o'clock, okay? And I'll be here. So until next time, beloveds, each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. Peace.
Gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen. Why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kunta. You ain't helping my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I want all the smoke like hookah. Talking reparations, America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest artist right now. See a bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all at Popeyes, how they be talking so greasy. I just sit back and laugh while these haters get madder. So nefarious how they don't want my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I got my foot on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threats. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece, this time I'm playing for keeps. You talking slick, but when I see you like them ends, we gon' meet. And I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got